All right, we are live for real. God, that was good. Okay, good morning. Welcome, everybody. So I'm Wads, as you probably know, and today with me is the lovely and talented Green Ivy. Ivy, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little about you.
Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for hosting me. So my name's Green Ivy, or you can call me Ivy. And I am a relatively new streamer and new to the gaming world, actually, as of since COVID happened, really. So yeah, just kind of on here and looking for new adventures and looking to connect with people and meet with people. So yeah, really happy to be here.
Absolutely awesome. So it's been a minute since we did one of these. Before we started, I just want to announce a couple of things. So I'm changing my schedule again because I haven't done that in a while. But I don't like doing the Wednesday night streams. We got a cat incoming.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. We love cats here. So my new schedule is going to be this stream as of next week is going to be moved to noon, so 2 hours later, and then my Wednesday night stream is moving to 10 a.m. on Thursdays because I want to do morning stream again. She's Saida's probably asleep. I just stayed up all night. I already announced this, but there is no video coming out tomorrow, which is when videos are usually coming out because I've just had a really busy week and I have another really busy week, but I'll try, but no promises on that. As for how this is actually going to go, so if you haven't been here before, this one is a little bit different. So basically I have like a list of questions and some things we want to talk about, and I'll ask the question, I'll have Ivy answer it first, and then I'll answer, and then we'll kind of go from there. It'll be, part interview, part discussion. We'll see how it goes. Ivy, you get to be my guinea pig, my test subject for this new format. So yeah. And if we get too far off on any tangents, we'll try to veer back onto topic, because our topics, I think, were COVID, relationships, and streaming. But, pretty much anything in there is fair game, in my opinion. And the last thing is, I have many channel point reward things, but if there's one that gets redeemed and I think it's like disruptive, like if it's, drop everything and go play Club Penguin, we're not going to do that because, that's not something I want to do. We'll have Ivy here. So we'll either refund those or like save those till the end when it's just me. That's basically it. So are you ready to go, Ivy? You want to just get right into it?
Awesome. And I apologize. My cat is on my lap, so you might see her from time to time, everyone.
That's okay. I'm okay with that. I try to bring out the reptiles every once in a while. I'm happy to see cats. All right, so Sip, so just a little bit about you before we get going. I probably won't answer these questions because if you've been here in my channel, I would hope you'd know these things. So when did you start streaming exactly? And how long have you been streaming?
Yeah. So I started streaming, I think, like back in the beginning of October.
Right.
So I think was when I started. So it's very, very, very new to this whole thing. And I've been having so much fun. But yeah, just like learning new things and because like I mentioned before, I had never heard of actually I don't know if I mentioned this, but I've never heard of Twitch before COVID, which is crazy. Like obviously it's a very popular platform. And really my boyfriend, he's really into like gaming and he goes on Twitch all the time. And he's the one who introduced me to it. So yeah, super new.
That's awesome. Yeah, cool. Well, my next question after that was going to be what got you into streaming. Also, hi Zahi, so nice to see you. Yeah, I'm hoping more people can come, because I think I was also having an issue where I have quite a few viewers who are in a very different time zone than me and couldn't even like come to my streams that were at night because they would be asleep. So, and I just don't like streaming at night that much. So, but yeah, Ivy, when What exactly like got you into streaming? Like what you said your boyfriend, but like what started you on it? What like drew you to it when you found out about it?
You know, when I think like before COVID happened, like back when, everything was normal, I'm a very sort of like extroverted person. So
Mm-hmm.
being at home was never really like a thing for me. I was always out and about, like Monday through Friday. Obviously I would go into work, but then right after work, I would take like one or two exercise classes. And then by the time I got home, it was like take a shower, have some food, go to bed, and then do that, Monday through Friday. And then Saturdays, I was out doing things. So when COVID hit, it was like it was kind of really hard, I think, and I
For
was like,
sure.
"Oh my god, what do I do with myself?" um, and it's funny because my boyfriend, we're polar opposites. So, like out in the real world, it works because we can lean on each other, and like I don't
Mm-hmm.
need him to like be that like channel for like me to, I guess, like for social interactions.
Yeah.
um, but then when we were like, because actually we had moved during the pandemic, um, and we were living in a one bedroom apartment with two cats. And it was just kind of really hard. Obviously you have like your Zoom meetings with your friends, but like that got old very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was just kind of like, all right, well, what do I do with myself? And I noticed like he would always talk. He'd always be on his computer playing games and he was talking with his friends. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, what is this? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, like, you should play with us. We play games together. We talk through like this Discord thing. Cause I had never
Mm-hmm.
heard of Discord either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so because I think he realized like I needed something, because right, watching Netflix, going on Hulu and all that stuff, that only lasts for so long
Yeah,
until you
absolutely.
literally go through everything.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh god. And so yeah, he first introduced me to Assassin's Creed,
Mm-hmm.
which I just played on my own, and I fell in love with it. Absolutely love it. And I literally became like I feel like I was like a 13-year-old boy. You know? I would wake up before work and play, and then during lunchtime, I would play. After work, I would play. Like, it was weird. I had never gone through something like that before. But I got addicted, and it was so
Yeah.
addicting. So I started with, like, Origins, went to, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and now I just recently got the newest one. And then yeah, then I was just like playing games with them. Um, and he had mentioned that one of his friends was actually going to start streaming. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean? Like, what do you mean stream? And then he was like telling me about it. And it really wasn't until like September he actually introduced me to Twitch. And I was like, oh, this seems really cool. Um, and so I was like, I'm gonna do it because when I was like going on Twitch, I was really just going into the just chatting section,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, people were just having fun and hanging out, and I was like, this could like fill a void for me, that I'm missing. And I am so sorry if you can actually hear they're doing the lawn outside.
I
So,
can't hear. You're good. You're good.
oh, okay, perfect. They're getting super close to the window, but sorry. Uh, but yeah, so that's how I got into streaming, and it wasn't even like he didn't actually really tell me I should, but he
Mm-hmm.
he introduced me to the site, and I was just like, this is something that I want to get into,
Mm-hmm.
and it honestly just gives me a hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really awesome. I think that's funny because first of all, I think it's fascinating that you're like someone who like wasn't even really into gaming, if I'm getting that right. And then all of a sudden it's like gaming and then streaming and just the whole nine yards.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think that's interesting too, because I also there was quite a while for me where I wanted to like stream and do YouTube and stuff, but I had various mental roadblocks, shall we say. And my boyfriend also just kept like pushing me and pushing me and pushing me until I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. And then I started doing it and I loved it. And I was like, okay, fair. That's fair. That's a fair point that you kept pushing me
boyfriends.
to do it. 0 to 60 real quick. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, now I love it. Yeah. I think, I mean, that's something we'll get into a little bit later, but you did like touch on, you know, how COVID sort of cut out a lot of your like social time and you had to find things to like supplement it. Well, do you think that's like the biggest way that COVID affected your life, or is there other parts that you feel like were also really negatively impacted by it?
Yeah. Well, so I think that's obvious. That's probably the biggest thing.
For sure.
Goodness, Gemma, be careful. She's okay. All right, hold on 1 second. I need to get her down because she's getting scared.
She's being dangerous.
All right. There you go. Okay. She's off. So yeah, that was definitely the biggest way. But I work a 9 to 5 like corporate job, and it's actually really interesting. It's a corporate wellness company. And yeah, and I work with different organizations to help them put like a wellness program together for their employees.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it was interesting because like our office, our headquarters, where I work, it's very much almost kind of like a Google type of office. It's very open. We have a rooftop deck. We have like walking treadmills. We have everything wellness related in the office. And, we also have like chair massages. It's absolutely crazy. And so I love going to work like that. Like going to work for me is like going like, I don't even know, like on a mini vacation. It's weird.
Yeah.
And that's where I get all of my social interaction. And because what I do, I have to collaborate with a lot of different departments, but also with clients. And so so going to work was always just something that I really looked forward to. So when that was taken away, because now we all work from home, that was huge. It's funny because I just remember looking at my 2 coworkers and just because we got the email saying, oh, everyone's gonna be working from home for 2 weeks. And we were like, oh, cool, this is gonna be fun. And I just remember turning to them being like, well, I guess I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye. And I have not seen them since. Oh, it was hard. And especially like in my 1-bedroom apartment with my boyfriend, like we did not get natural sunlight in that apartment. And I think that also killed it too. Like I'm so like I wake up with the sun and I usually go to bed with the sun going down. And so yeah, and like when we picked that apartment, like we weren't expecting to be stuck in there, for months on end. It was just conveniently located. And so yeah, and like not being able to like go out for lunch and just walk to like a restaurant or a cafe or it was harsh. And it's funny because those 2 employees are my 2 coworkers I had said that to, they actually got into streaming as well.
Everyone's doing it. Just everyone.
Do it. It's great. But yeah, those I would say, so those 2 were definitely the biggest, but then I also have family members in the healthcare, like one of them works at a hospital, and then my sister's an elementary school teacher. So I think like like in the beginning I was definitely very concerned for my brother and he also has like underlying like health conditions. So but like the thing is that because they needed healthcare workers, they couldn't they couldn't quit their job and get unemployment because they were essential workers. So he basically just had to suck it up and be like, okay, like even though I have health conditions, like I have to still be at this hospital and
Mhm.
do things. And so that that was very, very scary. And also, yeah, not being able to see him for months on end because
Yeah,
he yeah.
absolutely.
So that yeah, COVID has
Really hit you, yeah.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I know I'm definitely not the worst out there. Like
Yeah,
right now,
for
I'm in a
sure.
pretty good situation. So yeah, but it has been rough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I actually like I've been super super lucky in the fact that like my livelihood hasn't been affected, like the people I care about, like no one's been affected, which has been great. And I honestly think I am probably or like was in one of the best positions to like be someone who went into lockdown because so before like right before it was like, oh, okay, like it's March, we're going into lockdown, I was working at a job that I really it was not great for my mental health. And part like one of the nice that like it's it feels weird to be like I actually feel like all of this time and the lockdown has like given me time and space to like thrive when so many bad things are going on, but it has. And
Awesome.
because it got me out because like we couldn't work and my job was not essential. Like I didn't work for like the whole summer. And then when it was like, well, I could, like they didn't reach out to me. And when I was like, well, I could go back, I was like, or I could just get a new job that doesn't like suck the life out of me. And that the new job I got is so much better because it's like online and it's flexible and the people are so much nicer. So that was great. And I also because of the pandemic, I ended up getting a lot of time apart from my ex-boyfriend, and that gave me a lot of time to like reflect and be like, this relationship's actually not working for me. And on top of that, I suddenly had all this time to work on projects and work on like streaming and YouTube and the things I really wanted to pursue that I would not have had the same time if I had like an in-person job and if I had to go to school in person. So like it's honestly like I probably had one of the best experiences you could given everything with COVID, which is nice. But yeah, again, like sometimes I feel kind of like a little bit guilty about it because I'm like I feel like people are having such a bad time, but I'm like no, it's okay. Like
No,
I think
it's
it's
important
yeah.
to like work on yourself. And,
Yeah.
I think that's fabulous. I would love to hear like more stories about that, people thriving during this
Yeah,
time
yeah. Yeah,
because
that's
it is
true.
like it's hope, it's inspiration,
Yeah.
and I think that's awesome that you're able to do that for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And I think like it does feel weird to say, but I think 2020 has been like my best year ever because I had like several years ago, not very many years ago at this point, but I sort of hit like rock bottom and I've been like working my way out of it and it's like every year has gotten a little bit better and a little bit better, which has been fantastic. And so it just keeps getting better, which is great, but it feels weird with everything going on. I'm in a similar situation with chronic illness. It's actually been a good thing for me to focus on my health. Yeah, it's actually really, I agree. It's really nice to hear that kind of stuff and not just hear that people are having a bad time all over the place. And obviously everyone has been affected in various ways and stuff, but it's nice to see. Yeah. So next question, if you're ready to move along. So you did touch a little bit on like how like your relationship with your boyfriend and stuff, but how has COVID affected your relationships with like people you don't get to see anymore? Like have they faltered? Have you found new ways to connect with them?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it's so I feel like I've been a hermit.
Me too.
um, yeah, which is
Absolutely.
not like me. But I will say this. I think like when we look at, or at least when I look at like my friend groups, we're always previously we were always together doing things like that's how we
Mhm.
bonded. But now with COVID, we have to respect everyone's boundaries
Of
and
course.
how they feel. And at one point, I felt like COVID just got almost kind of political, and
Mhm. Mhm.
it it was one of those conversations where it was like, okay, you don't want to step on anyone's toes, you don't want to push too much, and if someone says, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable," you have to respect that.
Yeah.
And I feel like there have been some friends where, uh, and it's weird because like they were going out and doing things, and they were like, oh, like I'm not impacted by it, and I'm going
Right.
to go out and do all these things. And I'm very Tom and I are very conservative when it comes to this. And just because, we do have family members that do have underlying health conditions. So, if I want to see them, I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I'm safe and healthy for them. And so I do think some of my friends got a little upset
Hmm.
that I wasn't like going out and seeing things. And because I used to plan everything, like everything that we did, I would always plan. I'm the planner of the group. And so when you don't have to plan or planning anything, things start to fall apart a little
Yeah,
bit.
absolutely.
Yeah. And so we did have to get creative. And so obviously like Zoom sessions was huge, but
Hmm.
I kind of like was very candid with my friends, and I was like, look guys, like, like I don't mind like chatting on the phone and I don't mind Zoom, but like at the same time, like I'm kind of just going to be MIA, I think,
Yeah.
until this all goes
Yeah.
over. Um, and here's the other thing is because our state, so I live in Rhode Island, and our state has been going up and down, up and down. And in the beginning, we
Hmm.
were doing very well. I think we were like probably one of like the better states.
Hmm.
Um, but now it's kind of, I don't. We've been just going like this, and
Yeah,
now
for
it's
sure.
kind of skyrocketed. But
Yeah.
um, and I remember actually, so during this time, I also started talking to a therapist. I don't talk to her anymore, but like I was at a point
Hmm.
talking to a therapist, which I've never done before. And one of the things, her and I had different viewpoints. I think she was a little bit more liberal on just like she was going out and doing things. And I think she was trying to make me feel comfortable to do that. But I already knew my standpoint. I was like, no,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
where I'm
Yeah.
comfortable. Yeah. And but I remember telling her, like, she was like, "Oh, like you should just be optimistic that things are going to change." And I'm like, "That's true. I want to be optimistic, but I
Hmm.
also want to be a realist in this situation."
Yeah.
Because I feel like what's happening or what I was seeing is that, obviously people go from super, super low, and then, they get a little ounce of hope, and then they go skyrocket and they're super optimistic. But then all of a sudden, oh my God, we're doing horrible again. And so what's
Hmm.
happening is like you're going up and down, up and down. And that's not healthy for,
Yeah, for
to
sure.
keep doing that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to have this very healthy level of, I'm going to have like a not pessimistic view, but like just like a very realistic view
Hmm.
of what's happening. So that way I'm not going through that emotional roller coaster. Which is why, like, I was like, guys, like, if you want to come see me on stream, talk to me on stream. But
Yeah.
other than that, like, I'm just going to be MIA. And I kind of have been. And I feel bad, but like at the same time too, it's just I think it's better for my mental health, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Zahi said, "Good for you, Ivy, for speaking up about your needs and setting boundaries around what's important." And ugh, I hate when therapists use the word you should. I agree. Everybody should just remove the word should from their vocabulary. But no, I agree
I
with you. It's been this weird thing. Like, I, again, have been pretty lucky in that, like, I haven't. My dad has been a little not great. He's been pretty good about stuff, but he just, like, isn't super aware of people's boundaries just in general. Anyway, but like overall I've been pretty lucky in that no one around me has really been like, "Oh yeah, I don't need to wear a mask and I can just do whatever," cuz like that would definitely kill me. Cuz it, like, I agree with you. I've just been erring hard on the side of caution cuz I'm like, I just don't think it's worth it to, like, I just don't see how taking it less seriously is going to be helpful. I'd rather be overcautious in this. I saw a meme lately that was like, oh, in March it was like COVID was like this much and people's caution was like this much, and now it's like COVID is this much and people's caution is this much. And I'm like, yeah, that's accurate. I feel like people are getting comfortable, and it's scary, really. But I, again, like, this is I was already kind of a hermit because I'm just like that. I'm sort of like an extroverted introvert because I love people and I love attention and I love performance, but I also need a lot of time alone to like recharge and stuff, hence the like introvert part. So, and I had just recently moved to a new city, so a lot of my friends were not anywhere near me anymore. So I luckily did not have, I mean, a whole lot of relationships to lose here that weren't already kind of like long distance and I don't really see people. So that's been nice. But again, when I was seeing my ex-boyfriend, that like part of the reason I stopped seeing him was just because it was going to be like between him and his other partner and stuff, it was just going to be too many points of contact. And I was like, I want to see my family, and between my like my immediate family and my roommates, like that's pretty much my whole bubble, and that's just like too many points of contact. And that was a really hard decision to make, but it was like, I'm not like messing around, I'm not taking chances, because this is too important. And like my parents are in very good health, but they are like older, and I'm not chancing it. So but I do think COVID has definitely like reinforced my hermit tendencies and made them worse, maybe. But like I just have been, I feel like, spending more time with my family, which has been really nice. And I've been like, I hang out with my roommates, and I've just been spending even more time with my online friends than I already was. I will say it is unfortunate, because I just started a new school program, and it does make it harder to like befriend people when you don't really get to see them or have time to like interact with them a whole lot. But honestly, I'm quite happy with like the online classes and stuff, because it gives me more time to do other things. So it could be worse. Yeah. So that was, we talked about people, you know, that you had to like low key cut off for the time being. What about, I presume you live with your boyfriend? Yes. How?
Yeah.
How has it affected that? Has that put any like strain, if you're comfortable sharing, obviously?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in the beginning, him and I were living together, just him and I.
Yeah.
And yeah, it put a huge strain on the
I can
relationship.
imagine.
Yeah, because like now, since he was working from home, we had because of what he does, I'm actually not really allowed to see what he does. So we had to put a barrier up. So in
Mm.
our one bedroom apartment, we also had to almost kind of create like another room, which
Right.
made the place even smaller.
Yeah.
Um, and so, at work, I would constantly be getting all of that social interaction with people, and
Mm-hmm.
it would feed me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now I was going to him, who is an introvert, looking for him to give me all of the social
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff that I need, and it was hard, and he's a very quiet, person. When I met him, I'm like, "Wow, he's so mysterious," and, you know, all that silly nonsense.
That's so cute.
Um, and so, yeah, so he's not comfortable with that, and, like, I feel like I was forcing him to do things that I knew it wasn't part of his
For
personality,
sure.
and that made him feel very uncomfortable, and so, yeah, it was and I think it was, like, at that point, he was like, "Play Assassin's Creed. Here, I'm gonna introduce you," because it had gotten to that
Go
point.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go do something.
It
Yeah.
was really funny. Um, and then we realized so our lease was ending, and we kinda just reassessed the situation. We're like, "You know what?" Like, he was like, "Why don't we just move into my parents' place?" Because his brother, he only has one brother, and he's living
Hmm.
in South Korea right now.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so there's literally, like there's an open bedroom there, and there's also, like, a guest
Hmm.
room, so and just, like, a ton more space. So we were like, "You know what? Let's do it," and I have to say the move has been just so great. Like,
Good. Yeah.
because his parents are both pretty, like it's weird, they're both actually pretty extroverted.
Hmm.
So and, like, and I I now use them as, like, my social outlets, and
Hmm.
it's perfect, and now we're back to that normal almost like that normal, like, sense of our living situation beforehand, and it's nice. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, I'm glad, I'm glad it all worked out in the
Yeah.
end. Yeah. I feel like again, like I moved into a new place with four roommates. There's five of us here. Yeah. And
Wow.
I think, except for one roommate, although lately she hasn't been here a whole lot 'cause she's been at home, but we're all hermits. We all just like keep to ourselves, which is funny because I feel like for being trapped, well, not trapped, but you know what I mean. For being most of my time is spent in this apartment, I feel like I don't see them that often because we all just kind of stay in our rooms. We do like make an effort to be like, okay, we're gonna have like a movie night, we're gonna have like board games night. We did go out for sushi once, but obviously that's not really happening anymore because we just went back into red, so no more of that. But it's just strange because I was like, I felt like it would be more of a like it hasn't put more strain on us because I just don't see them. But I think it does help that I have my own space. I also have been going home when I can. My parents aren't there anymore, but my sister still is. But it was really nice to go home and like being around my family. Like I can, especially my sister and my mom, I can be around them like basically indefinitely. Like they're
Wow.
for being an introverted person on some very key levels. I feel like a lot of the time hanging out with people just tires me out, and I need to be alone. Like, and even it's like I do still need some space from them, but they're like my mom's pretty introverted and my sister's more extroverted, but we kind of are all on the same wavelength and we're good at like coexisting, so I never feel like I never really get sick of them. So that's
awesome.
been nice. Yeah, I never. So that's been really helpful. Some people aren't as exhausting to be around as others. Exactly, Killian. I like having people around. Just don't want them to talk to me. I have very few people in my life where it's like on pretty much any given day I can hang out with them because there's just a lot of people that even if I love them to death, sometimes I just don't have that kind of energy. But I like it's been pretty nice. I do miss like one of the reasons I went home when I had like 2 weeks off, 2 or 3 weeks off, was because the weird thing about here again is even though I have 4 roommates, I like hardly see them and I feel like I don't get that much social interaction from them. And being at home was nice because it was like there was sort of constant social interaction, but the kind I liked, not the overwhelming kind. So it was nice. And I miss being home. And in about, I think 3 weeks, I get to go home again for like Christmas and stuff. And I'm excited for that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great that like you can have that sort of relationship with your mother and your
Oh, yeah.
sister. It's funny because my mother and my sister, we can only spend so long
Mm-hmm.
like together before we're like at each other's throats.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's pretty normal, actually. I think we're kind of like my sister and I, even, and my like all 3 of us are very close. And I think that's more the exception than the normal. Like, I think most people are not as close as we are, but it's really nice to have that because like just anyone, it's you can only really maintain so many close relationships, and it can be really hard with friends, especially if you're like sort of around my age where there's a lot of transitioning happening because of school and university and stuff, and people are moving different places. So it's nice to always have that like my family are always going to be around kind of thing, which is
Yeah.
really great. So yeah.
I think that is huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness.
And you have
This
the cats. The cats
and I
are
have the
important to social
cats.
interaction.
Actually, do you want to know something funny? It's a
Sure.
little off topic,
That's
but
all good.
um maybe not. So one of the big things with moving into Tom's parents' house is that he has a husky. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have been slowly introducing the cats to the husky,
Right.
which is like a challenge in and of itself.
Yeah.
And so the other day actually, unfortunately Nova got into like their territory when they were
Mm-hmm.
eating, and it just turned into like a smackdown. It was horrible. Like
Oh,
they got into a huge fight, and my cats became super vicious. And so I had to, of course, step into the middle of it. And then, of course, like I'm the one who gets injured, but my
yeah.
cat literally just like bit my hand, and it went
Oh,
super hard
God.
that yeah, it was crazy. And then I ended up getting, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's called cat scratch fever.
I have not. That sounds really awful,
It's
though.
oh, it's horrible. It's
Yeah.
absolutely horrible. Because like he bit me on, what was it? Like not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday before, and it had gotten infected. Sorry if this is like TMI,
It's
but like
okay. It's okay. We talk about biology here. It's all good.
okay, great. And so and it was just infected, but then like on Saturday, last Saturday, I just came down with like a fever and it
Mm-hmm.
lasted until Monday. It was It was horrible. I was like, this is terrible. Like, oh God. So it's been a struggle with them.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, for sure. Oh, Warrior Girl's here. That's my mom, actually, in case you're wondering. Warrior Girl 52 is my mom. There's
awesome.
a song called Cat Scratch Fever, she says. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
I didn't know that. Now I know.
It's a horrible
thing.
So
we did kind of go over this stuff, but in case you have anything else to add to it, my next question was, how has streaming helped you cope with the pandemic? And I feel like the social part is definitely a huge part of it.
Absolutely. And it's funny because like out in the real world, I love being the center of attention, and whether that's us, it's actually funny. So across the street from where I work is a karaoke bar.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, and I love that place. And there would be times where we would go and like I would get dressed up if I knew I was singing a particular song. So for instance, one time I was singing, I knew me and my coworker, what's it called? That song from Grease. It was a song from Grease, and I was like, okay, this is great. So right after work, I put on like this leather outfit. I got a blonde wig and went to this karaoke bar. And I was, I was Sandy for the night. Oh God. And it was great. And so, yeah, I mean, I love performing. And when I was like when I was younger, I was a competitive dancer. So I love being on stage. And so I that part of, and I bring that crave for attention, being in the spotlight, like wherever I go, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I think with streaming, it's definitely helped in that aspect. Because when you're with your friends in like a smaller group setting, you don't get that fill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's just you're not there, right? You're not with other people. And so I think with streaming, it's helped me in that. So that way now I feel like I have a purpose because I feel like I am going on and like performing. And I'm also meeting new people, which is great. Because that's what I'd be doing normally is constantly going out and meeting new people. So yeah, the social element has it's definitely feeding me in a way that like I think I needed. And then also like even just like being like getting to know Tom's friends a little bit more, I think is huge. So because it's so as I mentioned, like he's definitely more of an introvert. And anytime we were going out and doing things, it was always with my friends, like my group of friends. And then so I never really got to like know his friend group very well. Because they're all like him, sort of like they all like to like play games and like hang out, online and stuff. And so it's really given me the opportunity to like get to know them on a deeper level, and vice versa. So it's cool.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I feel like streaming has like the social aspect has been huge, and I agree with you about the performance thing. So before this part of my job that I didn't like, but the job I was working was always like interacting with new people and like guiding people. I was a horseback riding trail guide is what I was, which was fun, but also the people were awful. So but that was fun because it was like always like meeting new people and helping with new experiences. And I was also doing drag performances, which were so fun. And when like all that ended, it was just like, oh, well, yeah, like how do I agree with you. Like there's a big difference between like there's just something about like actual performance versus just like hanging out with friends, even if it's like a decent group of friends. Like there's just, I don't know, something about being the center of attention, and it's great.
It's very different. Yeah.
But I think streaming has, been a huge thing with that. Oh, also, hi Guardians. Thank you for coming. They said, what a great conversation. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have Ivy here. It's been wonderful so far. Anyways, so like, and streaming, like it was a great avenue for sharing stuff I loved talking about, which is like mental health stuff, and before it was animal biology stuff. And like it was just I honestly don't know what I would be doing with my time if like streaming and like YouTube were not a thing, because doing this stuff has given me such a drive to like I have a plan now, and I want to work in like the media type industry and stuff. And if it weren't for that, I would probably have fallen back into a depression, to be perfectly honest with you, when everything kind of shut down. Like that's probably where I would have been at. So, and again,
Definitely.
and so that's been, really, really awesome. I had another thought and I completely lost it, but that's okay. I love
so sorry.
speaking. It's okay. I love public speaking, and not being able to do that has been challenging. Streaming makes up for a bit. Yeah, I had a job for 3 summers. That's the reptile job where I got most of the reptiles from. And it was a lot of public speaking. I did tours every day. I did presentations about it, and I just loved it. I loved it. I just love being able to talk about stuff anyways. And so this has been a great alternative and way of doing that. And it's also pretty low effort, which is like in some ways, which is great, because you don't have to like go somewhere. Like I'm not even, I mean, I am wearing pants, but I'm not wearing like super presentable pants. Like I'm wearing a nice shirt, but like,
pants.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I haven't like washed my hair in several days, but no one knows. It's great. Well, now you do know, but whatever.
I'm same.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're okay here, I would love to take a 5-minute break because I need to pee. So I think, we will be. Let me get my screen out. Okay, we will be right back. And we are back. Here. Also, I on that break, my sister messaged me, "Why do birds even bother migrating?" She said, like, if you're somewhere that it gets cold, why not stay somewhere it's warm all the time and save yourself the trip? I don't get it.
That's very fair.
Yeah. I don't blame that. Okay. So I believe we were moving away a little from the pandemic stuff and getting more into the relationship type stuff. Oh, that's okay. So I wanted to start with this question because I feel like you know, there's a lot of people, you know, talk about like, I'm currently in a long distance relationship, and there are aspects of it that obviously suck because I would love it if my boyfriend was here, but he is not. But I wanted to talk about like in what ways are online relationships better than real life ones, because obviously that's a big thing happening right now, is people, I feel like, are cultivating more, you know, online relationships. So what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Oh, that is very, very interesting. Yeah. Um, actually, I think, like, with online relationships, it's a little bit easier, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, because well, okay, at least with, like, streaming anyways, because, you know, they only know as much as, like, you tell them. It's not like they can, like, see every aspect of your life and maybe some of, like, the negative things that are happening in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's easy to go to them and just kind of, and I actually said this on my stream the other day. I was like, you know, we don't really talk about very like sensitive things on or like
Mm-hmm.
religious or political or anything because I feel like I get that enough from like my real life that
Yeah.
like when I come on stream, I'm like, guys, I just need to have fun and relax and not really care too
Yeah,
much about what's happening.
for sure.
Um and I think like with my viewers, the the little viewers that I have, it's actually nice that I'm a small streamer because
Mm-hmm.
I can build those relationships with these people. Um, and you know, we just come on there and we just whatever comes to mind really, or whatever I'm doing, like there, it's very lighthearted and it's fun. Um, and it's nice because you know they bring elements to that, you know, to keep the conversation going. So actually a lot of the people that view my stream are actually usually from Europe, which is so cool.
Mm, yeah.
And so we get to talk about like different things and you know, and I get to reminisce on like times when I've been to like Europe and stuff, and it's so nice. And it's just easy to have those conversations with them, I think. And they all know about my boyfriend Tom. Uh, because he's even though like he Tom has never been on my stream or anything, but they've
Mm-hmm.
actually heard to him through Discord when I play like Among Us or you know when
Mm-hmm.
I'm hanging out with his friends. Um, and but right, but then like come to like real life relationships. Actually, I kind of almost feel like Tom and I have like an online relationship sometimes because like before we were living in our one bedroom apartment, like we were on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now like his office and my office are in two separate rooms on two different sides of the house. Um, and so and I'm not really allowed to be in that room when like during the daytime, like when he's working. So and then like usually like you know once we're both done working, you know we'll have dinner. But then like if it's a streaming night, I go back into my office and I'm streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's I mean that's 3 nights out of the week, and so I it's funny because I like it's like we both have like we have like an online relationship
Yeah.
because we don't
Yeah.
see each other, which is actually kind of nice. But yeah, I do think it's easier just having this support system online that you can go to, and it's kind of nice that they don't know everything about your life.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's kind of like a it's like a little support group that's like centered around you, and that, you know, if you just need to come on and do whatever, like they kind of seem down for whatever. At
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
my little friends have.
Guardian said, live streaming is a unique opportunity to connect and socialize, especially now through these uncertain times. Love this combo. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, did you have anything else to add before I move on to my bit?
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, sorry, just a little aside to add to what you were saying. I think it's really nice and like important in relationships, especially when you live with someone, that you have time apart, so you like get time to like miss them and stuff. I feel like being with someone like literally 24/7 is not good for either of you, you know, even if you really, really like them. So I think
Yeah.
that's actually really great that you get to sort of like have your days apart and then you get to like come together and like reconnect. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and I think for me, this is a little more like a little less about streaming relationships necessarily, and more just about like online friends, just because I've had online friends for like a very long time. But I think one of the really nice things about online relationships is that especially for me, who again in the last several years have been through just a ton of change, and I've like moved from place to place just because of like being a student and stuff, and having online relationships that were constant, like they were always there and always the same no matter where I was really nice. And it's like the job I worked, we had really high turnover because it was like a summer job and a lot of it was volunteer, and so it's like those people would come and go, and I had friends in high school, and then obviously I missed, like, they're all gone now, and then I made friends in during school, and then I finished my degree, and like they've all moved on, and I just find it so much easier to maintain relationships with, like, in the online form, because I just feel like it's just easier in so many ways because it's just less commitment in a way. I was reading an article this morning about core human values, which include, for instance, growth, contribution, variety, significance, and connection. It sounds like streaming meets a lot of these needs for both of you. Miss you. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and like I think it's just it can be more stable because it's like the sort of like the format of the relationship isn't changing all the time, because I find it really hard to maintain connection with people that I used to see all the time, like every day, and now I just don't see them every day, and I'm not like a big texter, so that's always very hard for me. I also think, like, because with the internet you have access to so many people, it just makes it easier to find people who are into what you're into. Like, there's always a community for like the game you like, or if you have an interest, like there's always tons of people who are into it, and it's so much harder to find that kind of thing in person because you don't know going in what people are into. And I also think and this particularly goes back to the like my worst year, which is when I really started leaning on having online friends and stuff, is it's just like it's less effort, which is really nice, because it's like if I say with you, it's like if you lived in my city obviously, and I want to like see you and like go out for coffee with you, it's like I have to like get up and I have to shower and I have to get dressed and I have to get in the car and I have to go, like it's just so many steps. And especially when I was having a really hard time like doing like one of those steps, it was so nice to be like, I don't have to do anything except like click a button and I can talk to someone and like connect with someone. And I think that's really nice and a really important avenue for people who don't really have it to give, or for who like real life stuff is harder, people with social anxiety, or who just don't have the same, like, I can't think of the word, but like people who aren't so good at like picking up on social cues or stuff like that. Like, I just think it can be a lot easier. So I think I think people really, this is my perception, and I think I like made this perception in my head like a long time ago when it was less accepted for online, like to be friends with people online, where I just feel like people don't think that online relationships are really as valuable as real life ones, but I think they are, especially now.
Oh, I completely agree with that. And like, it's as I'm sitting here like thinking about everything that you're saying, it's gonna be interesting like when we go back to normal life, like what am I gonna do? Am I gonna keep streaming? Am I gonna keep like strengthening these online relationships? Because this is the first time for me that I've done something like this. So it's actually really comforting to hear that like you've been able to easily like keep these relationships throughout time.
For like years.
Yeah, and I think that's so awesome, because actually one of my friends, she during COVID, she got an amazing job opportunity and she moved down to Florida. And her and I were roommates for a long time, and really we are just like the best of friends. But right during COVID, like we just kind of like stopped talking, and a lot of that has to do with like obviously me being a hermit now. But also like she's also starting a new job, so she's like super busy, but like it's going to be interesting to see like, okay, is that relationship that I've formed over like how many years like in person, is that going to stay together? Because we've never really created an outlet where like we had that online sort of relationship. So it is going to be fascinating to see how these online relationships versus these in-person ones actually change throughout time, at least for me. And so it's going to be interesting. I'm excited, and I'm very happy to hear that it is easy, because I love my little community. I love the people that come in and see me, because I do think like there are definitely a few of them that come like every single stream, and they they watch my Instagram stories, they watch my TikTok, which I just got, literally trying everything, because why not? It's
Yeah,
cool.
totally.
But yeah, I feel a connection to them, even though like I've never seen them before, but I know their name, or I know their username, and
Mhm.
um and it's definitely nice. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so the next question I had was, this is kind of like a general thing because there are sort of two sides of it. The question is, how does streaming help you or other people feel more connected? And I feel like the two sides are like, from the perspective of a streamer and a perspective of a viewer, so you can start with whichever one you want.
Yeah, so when after like my first like 2 streams, I was like, "Okay, if I'm gonna take this as a hobby, like I wanna do this right." And
Yeah.
so, I started going on YouTube, and actually how we met, like I came across, Ashley Christ's,
Yeah.
YouTube channel,
Mhm.
and I literally have watched every single one of her YouTubes, and I like almost became like when you watch someone's content for such a long time, like literally I'd spent hours just watching her. I kind of almost felt like akin to her, and I'm
Yeah.
like I know this person, like I feel like I
Mhm.
know her. And when I hopped into her Discord for the first time, I once again super new to Discord, like still learning the ins and outs and whatnot. Um, she was in the just like text, like she was hanging out in her like I don't know, like you could go in and use your voice and use your
Mhm.
headset. At first, I was like, "Am I supposed to be in here?" Because it was just her and I, and I
Yeah.
couldn't get my headset to work, and, like, I jumped out, then I jumped back in. But, like, I almost had, like, this celebrity moment where I was just, like, in awe. I was like, "Oh my god." I was like, "You don't know me, but I know you." It was so funny. And her and I were just chatting, and a few others came in, and we were all just chatting with each other, and, I felt like, because like, when obviously, when she's, like, talking to you in a YouTube channel or something, it's like it feels like she's talking directly at you.
Yeah.
Um, and so I created this, whether it was imaginary or not, like, I felt like I created this relationship with her before even, like, saying hi to her in real
Mhm.
life, like, or in Discord. Um, and, she was amazing. So and when I met her, but, like, you definitely, and I can imagine it's the same way when, like, you're watching a streamer where it is live and they can directly chat with you. It's you build this relationship, and it's nice. And so I like it because, like, it's you don't need to put yourself fully out there, right? Like,
Mhm.
as the streamer is, you're just coming in kind of as, like, almost kind of like a shadow, right? Like, you can just come in and you can say something, you don't have to say anything, but, like, at the same time, you feel like you're still there creating this relationship, like, you're both working together with this
Mhm.
relationship.
Mhm.
Um and then on the opposite end, I feel like, because obviously I mainly stream, I don't spend too much time on Twitch, just because now Assassin's Creed's out and I've been playing that. So, um, but I do try to jump into other people's like smaller streamers. When they go live, I try to view them and I try to be active and stuff. Because I like that. And
Mhm.
also, like, as a streamer myself, when you're creating these relationships with these people, um, it's you want to make sure like your attention is on like everybody, and especially everyone who's talking in the chat. And
Yeah.
um, it can at times it can be, I think, a little like it can be a little much, but like it's I enjoy, especially if like sometimes there's actually a few people that I actually know in real life. Well, actually, one of them isn't really real life. I don't know, but like it's all meshing together now.
Mhm.
Um, and but what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. I feel like I'm losing my train of
That's okay.
thought. Wait, what was the question again?
The question was, we were talking about how streaming can help you feel connected to people.
Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, and so like, there's this one particular individual who's always on, and like we just have like really good chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like I can't see him or her, whomever, I know that like we're just like having good banter and we're talking back and forth, and it's just, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, absolutely. Sorry, there's a couple of messages here, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Damas66 said, "Glad you mentioned me." Is that one of your viewers? Because I don't think, I was gonna say I don't know who that is. I didn't mention you.
That is him. Hi. I'm talking about
Hello,
you.
welcome. And Warrior Girl said, "That's an interesting take. How streaming / Discord can break down barriers in communication." Yeah, I think there's a really interesting thing. So I'm gonna attempt to talk about this in the two parts, but it might overlap. But like as a streamer, it's a little bit, it's weirder than being a viewer in terms of communication, because people are just usernames and words in your chat, and it's great because it allows you to like connect with more people, and that's really awesome. But I think one thing that, people being streamers can fall into really easily, and especially I presume if you're like a more popular one, is it's easy to like essentially see those people as a number or like +1 to your success. And it can be like, it's, I think streaming is fantastic in that it allows you to connect with other people, but I think it can easily become a slope of like depersonalizing people. And like because I strongly believe that like no one is better than anybody else. People with, a million followers are not like any more worthy than you are or anything like that. And like they may not even be more talented than you are. They maybe have just figured stuff out before you did. Like that's kind of how I feel. And I that is one thing that I feel like it's hard to not do when you get more popular, because like you said, like being a smaller streamer is actually really nice because you get to know people more and you get to connect with people. And I feel like you lose that when you become a bigger streamer, at least to a degree, because there's so much going on. And I think that's kind of too bad.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. And I think like, actually, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but like I remember like in my first few streams, obviously I have like my boyfriend as a moderator and some of his friends as moderators or
Mhm.
whatever. And like people would come in and they would chat or they would say something and then they would immediately like ban them.
Yeah.
um which is like fine, but like at the same time too, like I remember I had to like have a conversation with my boyfriend, so I'm like sometimes like it's good for me to learn one, like how to handle trolls.
Yeah.
It's good practice, especially when you're smaller. But two, sometimes it can be funny, I think, and
Hmm.
fun. And so and who knows what will come of it and whatnot. But it was funny because like in the beginning, I was like, okay, like don't be too intimidating to people. Like let people come in, and if they're saying something weird, like let it go for a little bit. But if it gets like too
Hmm.
crazy, sure, do what you want. But because I think people come in, and especially like sometimes when like I'm in someone's stream and I want to say something, I'm always like, okay, like if someone wrote this to me, how would I respond
Hmm.
almost? So I'm very cautious on what I say in streams, like when I'm typing it, like if I'm in someone else's stream. And sometimes like people, what did Tom call it? He said there's something, keyboard warriors. Is that like a term?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay, that. So people say these crazy things sometimes, but like, I think if you're able to talk to people and kind of get real with them, I think on a like a different level, or just like on a human level, like
Hmm.
they get over that, and then they're like, okay, like this is a person, like,
Hmm.
and then you can start forming those connections. Um, but yeah, in the beginning, it was just funny because they were like banning random people, and I was like, stop banning people. I'm like, I'm not that big yet, and also it's just fun. It's just fun to talk with different
Yeah.
types of people.
Honestly, when you first said that, my brain just had a thing of someone being like, "Hi," and your boyfriend being like, "No, banned, goodbye, absolutely not." I think it's funny, but yeah, I agree with you. I think that's really admirable. I think there has to be a balance, right? Because there's a lot of misguided and hurting people in the world who just like lash out at others because they think it'll make themselves feel better. Like that's what trolls are doing, is they go and they're trying to make people feel bad because they think it'll make them feel better about themselves. And I think, you know, that's kind of just like with anything, is there's a balance between like, do I want to try to reach out to this person because I can see that underneath this they're actually just like hurting and probably just want connection and don't know how to get it, and being like, I don't have the energy and you are not worth it anyway. And I think that can be a hard balance to strike, because I do think, you know, when you're small, it can also be really difficult to not like, I think one thing that people really have issues with is like setting boundaries and being like, actually, like you're making me uncomfortable, like you need to go. And like obviously that's different from person to person. What, like, you know, like as you're saying, some people like let trolls go for a bit because they're funny and like you might get some funny banter out of it, and some people just want nothing to do with that, and like that's all very valid. And I think the real issue is just when people, like, especially I think women on here, allow themselves to be uncomfortable because they don't want to like offend someone, or they don't want to lose the viewer or whatever. And it's like, you have to be ruthless sometimes in setting your boundaries, because that is the only way to like achieve that. I feel like I've really had to work on that in the last couple of years, which has been hard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, and I completely agree. And I think it's right, I think when you are a small streamer, like I don't really particularly like look at the numbers. Like if people want to chat, like I don't even have like the viewer count on when like I'm going, because it doesn't really matter to me. I'm focusing on the people who are obviously chatting with me. But right, like you do need to set boundaries. And I kind of like told like, you know, my boyfriend like what my boundaries were. You know, if someone comes in just randomly and like I just like completely ignore like something that they said that maybe was a little bit weird, like, oh, like let me see your feet or something. If I'm not in the mood and I ignore it, usually he catches on and he'll just be like, okay, that person needs to leave like immediately. But if I like actually respond to it, then that's it. So it's kind of like a hidden, like it's like a message between him and I, like, okay, like let's see, because he's always like watching, like he has me on in the background. I don't know if he's actually watching, but he's there and he's, you know, watching the chat. But yeah, I agree. And I think that's also like within real life too, right? I think because I remember there was this a long time ago in high school, long time ago. Yeah. I remember there was this one girl and she was so upset with me over something that I didn't even do, but like, and she wanted to like beat me up, and she's like, "Oh, meet me behind the stairs at this time," and you know, and I think I was thinking, okay, either I can just like run from this, or I can just like confront her and we can have a conversation about it, and like. And that's literally what I did. And I went there. It was just her and I didn't tell anyone about it. And, you know, she came at me very like, she was very direct and very in my face. And then, you know, I just kind of took a step back and I was like, all right, like what's going on here? Like, let's have a conversation. And then, you know, at the end, you know, she broke down crying, and like I was just someone that she could talk to at that particular moment. We didn't become friends, obviously, but like, you know, it was just that moment. And I think that was very powerful for me way back then, just because like words do have meaning and they have power. And you know, and even like for like those keyboard warriors, right? And I don't think they understand sometimes like the strength of what they're saying can actually hurt someone. And right, and it's so easy, right? If you're just like a name and you know you're not a streamer, people don't know you, and you go on and you had a really bad day. It's kind of like, oh my god, sorry, Mike. Can you? Because my cat just like almost knocked over my laptop. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, and because everyone's going through something, and it's so easy to just go off on someone that you don't know, they don't know you. So yeah, I do think setting boundaries is good, and And yeah, and whether or not you're good at handling conflict or whatnot, like even if like for you or for girls, like to have someone on there as a moderator that you trust and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of have that like hidden language between you two, like, okay, like if you notice this is going on and I'm not reacting to it, like this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
for
So
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I think Zahi said something really good in chat, which I also really have to pee, so I'm gonna read this, and then we're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and then I have stuff to talk about with that because I think it's really good. But Zahi said, "I feel like streaming has given me the opportunity to practice being assertive in a safe way, something I need to work on a lot." Which, like, me too. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a sec. I just have consumed a lot of tea this morning, so we will be back in a
Sounds
couple
good.
of minutes. Okay. Okay, we're back. We're all right. So I think one thing that really stuck out to me when you were talking about that is I think you have identified there one thing that I think is just like super important, just in personal growth and like learning to be a good communicator and stuff like that, is just like knowing when things are not actually about you, which is like most of the time. Because like you were saying, like, someone got really upset at you over something like that, you were like, I didn't do that. And I think it can be really easy for people in that situation to be like, oh, well, I didn't do that. And now they're blaming me and like they're an awful person. And it's much harder to be like, okay, well, clearly something is going on with them that they are like pushing out onto me. And I wonder about that. Like, I think it's a huge thing to be able to do that because we take things so personally. Yeah, like when Zahi's saying here, like it's rarely about you. Most of the time when people like honestly all the time when people are upset, even if it's some like totally valid about something you did that hurt them, like it's still about them, it's still their feelings, like it's still that kind of thing. And I think that's a huge thing, especially when you do have trolls and stuff. It's really powerful to be able to be like, okay, well that person clearly has kind of like probably a kind of sad life. If I'm gonna keep talking. You do you.
Yeah.
You figure out your cat.
Yeah, thank you. Hold
on. It's really like easy for if someone comes into your chat and says like, oh, haha, you're ugly or you're a bad streamer or whatever. It's much harder, I think, to be like, okay, clearly something is going on in their life, and it's easy to sort of take it upon ourselves and be like, oh, well, I know it was some random person who said that, but like they wouldn't have said it if it wasn't true. And it's like, no, they probably would have anyway. So I think that's definitely a huge thing. And like Zahi was saying, which I haven't even thought about, but it's an excellent point about streaming giving you the opportunity to practice being assertive in a safe way. And I definitely feel that because I have had to work my butt off to, like, I hate confrontation. It stressed me out forever. For so long I would just avoid like having to talk to my bosses about things, having to talk about stuff in relationships that bothered me. I would just like put it off as hard as I could, and it would stress me out incredibly to like go do that. And it's because I didn't do it for so long that like if I had started doing it bit by bit, it would have gotten better, but I just didn't, and it took a lot to get there. But I agree with you. I feel like, streaming and even online can be a good way of practicing your boundaries and being assertive, and in a way that you're like a lot more protected, because it's like the worst thing that happens is you can shut off your computer, you're out of that situation, where it's like in real life it is not that simple,
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so we just talked about as a streamer a whole bunch. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to add on to that, about like sort of about being a sort of a camera. Can't remember if I said this, but we're gonna talk about it again if I already did. But I think streaming can also, like, I've read like several different accounts from people like on Reddit or whatever, and heard it from people talking about how streaming has helped with their social anxiety, and I think that's really cool, because I feel like it's the same kind of thing. Is it's kind of like a safer, easier environment where it's like you can practice being social, and if something is too much, you can shut it off and it's done and you're out of there. Where it's like in real life, it's easy to feel trapped in situations. And I think that's really cool. Because I think it's like there are, different camps of people like you and I, clearly, who are just like, I want to perform, I want another avenue to like talk to people and stuff. And I think there's, another camp of people who also really want to connect, but maybe like feel like they don't really know how, and so get into streaming as a way to like foster that. And I just think that's really cool.
Interesting. Because I actually think like, so my sister has social anxiety. I don't, obviously, but I've always wondered about it, because she has really bad social anxiety, and I always imagine if she would like if she would do well streaming, and like that would help her, and that, because I have thought about it, and I've told her about it, but I think also like taking that step online is kind of also kind of a little scary too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, that is an interesting topic for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think like this is another. I just lately. Oh God, hold on, I'm stuck in my headset. There we go. I was trapped for a moment. Hair. Okay, too much hair. I have too much of it. So he said you have more control of the situation when streaming, and that can be empowering. I definitely agree. I do think like with self growth, and this is something I've talked about, I think a lot of times. One of the unfortunate things about self-growth is a huge part of self-growth is you just like have to be scared, and you just have to be uncomfortable, and you have to like that's the way you grow. The reason people don't grow is because they don't want to be uncomfortable and they don't want to be scared, which is valid. Like nobody likes being uncomfortable or scared. But like you're saying, like it can be a huge hurdle for people to start streaming and to like get into that. But I do think it can really help people. I think it can also probably be really bad for your mental health. I think it can kind of go either way, because some people go into it maybe with the wrong mindset and want more success than like they will get out of it. And I don't think that streaming is the only thing you can get out of success, streaming. My brain just had a moment. Success is not the only thing you can get out of streaming, and I think there are better things you can get out of streaming than just lots of followers or lots of viewers, Like I think making the relationships is the best part.
Yeah, I think so too. And actually, I think Dom, I think you've asked me this question before, like in the beginning, where it was like what are your goals for streaming? And I was like, well, I don't really have any. I guess my main thing was just like to find connection and to do something with with my time. But right, I was kind of like thinking a lot about it, and someone asked me like, oh, like if you became big enough, like would you ever make this like your career? Would you ever become a full-time streamer? The answer is probably no. And I don't think like I would want to get too famous or like too successful on here, just because I do like that smaller stream environment. it's definitely helping right now because the more I think about it, and like, I think this is like not even with streaming, I think this is like with anything in life. When you become super successful, it's kind of like a pyramid. And like, the more you become successful, the lonelier you tend to
Yeah,
get.
yeah.
Yeah, and, you find that in the corporate world, you find that, amongst celebrities, and because the higher you go, it is hard, and I think, like, there's this element of, like, wanting to please everybody, and then,
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to find that balance, right? And I think when you become a really big streamer, or, like, when you do start to see that success, you're like, "Oh, I have to cater to this and
Mm-hmm.
that," and I think it's easy to fall into that, but, like, at least for me personally, I don't I'm gonna try not to do that because right, at the end of the day, I like this smaller community and
Yeah.
having those connections, but yeah,
Yeah.
it is
I
interesting.
really like what you said about the pyramid thing. I think that's really insightful. I think you're right. Like I can't imagine what it's like to be like Ninja or whoever and you have to be careful about who you even associate with and like, you go
Mhm.
out to the grocery store and people are probably harassing you for pictures or like so on. Like I agree. I don't think I ever want to be that like famous. That's not what I want. I do intend my goal
Mhm.
is to be Twitch partner. I don't want to do streaming full time, but what I would really, really like my goal right now, my like the best thing I could ever imagine is to be able to make a living making like mental health content for people, whether that's like partly streaming, partly YouTube, like writing books, making courses, kind of
Oh.
like what Ashley Christ does actually, but more like mental health oriented. I think what she does is so cool.
Yeah.
um
I
Hi, hey
love
girl
that
Sarah.
idea.
Yeah. So he said, I don't want to be famous. I just want to have a positive impact. I love that. I like that's
Yes.
kind of where I'm at is like, I don't want to be famous. I want the like enough, I guess, success or fame where it's like I can do what I want to do. But beyond that, like it's kind of just vanity beyond that point, you know? You don't really like you don't need it. That's such an interesting perspective. Love the small community aspect. The Twinkle Toes. In case you're also curious, Twinkle Toes is my big sister. Gang's all here. Yeah.
I
That,
wish my siblings would come to
yeah.
this.
Yeah. But I
Actually, they
think
were very concerned
yeah. Yeah.
when I told them.
But I think that's also like a huge point that people miss again because the idea of being famous and having tons of people who, adore you sounds so good, but I think in reality it's not that like it's not all it's cracked up to be and I really don't think like even to be a full-time streamer or whatever or to do something like I want to do, I don't think you need to have thousands or millions of like viewers or whatever. Hey, I'm here because I texted Waz and she texted me back. I did see your text and read it out, the one about birds migrating. I thought that
Yep.
was very funny. It was very good. Thank you for that. I don't currently have an answer for you, to be honest, but I'll get there. My guess is it has to do with niches and like we don't really need to get off into biology right now, but basically if there's like it's the places that get cold have better or a better environment in the summer or whatever than down south. But anyway, maybe it gets too hot down south. It gets too hot for me down south. Moving on. I've noticed there seems to be a lot of people that want to be famous on the internet, but the problem is not everyone can be famous on the internet. Oh, well, absolutely. And I really think with that when people want to be famous, being famous would not actually meet the need the way they think it would, because I think usually like people actually want connection. They want to feel connected to people and they think that having tons and tons of people who like them will get them that, but that's not it. Like I think people are just not that good at identifying their needs and how to actually get them met, which is fair. It's hard to know what is going to work and what's not going to work.
Mhm.
Like I don't think that if you went into any, random small streamer who has like 3 average viewers and suddenly they had 1,000 viewers, I don't think that would make them happy or
No,
like
it
not in the
wouldn't.
long term anyways.
Oh my god. Sorry. Oh.
And a friend, you're blessed. Welcome. Do they
This
have
is Mr.
anything
King.
to say?
What about
Do
he
they
is
have
famous.
thoughts?
He is a
Absolutely.
king. Yeah,
Absolutely.
he's a king.
100%.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. I'd rather be connected to 10 than just know 1,000. Yeah, and that was something we were kind of, I said earlier, which is like you can only actually foster very few close relationships. We just do not have the time or energy to have more than a couple like really close people. So having tons and tons of like acquaintances or, you know, viewers is not really gonna get you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
That might
Yeah.
actually terrify me. Yeah, that's fair, Killian. I think I would explode if someone suddenly rated me with like 1,000 people. I just wouldn't know what to do with myself. Oh, hello, Verbal. That would be overwhelming. Exactly. You know, I don't think that it's all it seems to be, and I think it's a lot of
Yeah.
pressure, kind of like you were saying. Like you feel like you need to make everybody happy, and like suddenly you become like a slave to your audience, especially if you go full time and that's how you're making money, is like you have to do what the people want, and you kind of can become stuck in that, I think.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like the only thing I can like relate it to, you know, back when I was a competitive dancer, like when you're on stage, right, you can't the lights are so bright you can't see into the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost like you're dancing for yourself, right? Like it's just you. Like even though you know like there's a lot of people watching, it's almost like they're not even there. Even
Yeah.
though they technically are,
Yeah.
compared to like if you were just dancing like in front of like in your studio, you know, with your other form like your other dancers there, just like watching you. It's a more magical experience because you can see their face and their expression, even though
Yeah.
you can't like
Yeah.
see people online, but you can see like the talking.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've definitely been in some streams where like the chat goes so fast that I can't even keep up, and I'm just a viewer, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm like, oh my god, that's nerve wracking. Like it's not nerve wracking, but it's a little not sad, but like it's kind of like
It's
I don't know.
disconnected is what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I get like that in some of those streams. It's more of like the community members just talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but like I don't know. I feel like I'd want to be a part of that.
Yeah, yeah,
You
I
know
get
that
it. Yeah, I
conversation.
think
Yeah.
it like I definitely agree with you. It's not really connection. I think it can occasionally be fun, like where we talk about Germa on this channel sometimes, and he's a really big streamer, and his chat goes by really fast, and it's basically like a hive mind where it's like people aren't even like saying things. It's just like emotes, and they'll all say like one word like repeatedly, and it's just like that can be kind of fun, but you're not really connecting. It's just kind of like being part of a mob, which is fun, I think, for like 5 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, this is it's also
Yeah.
kind of interesting because I have a ton of Twitter followers and I'm fairly well known as a conference speaker, but I'm definitely not connected to the tons of people I know. Yeah, I think one thing about that I find kind of funny is, again, I love public speaking and stuff like that. And you're like, it's kind of a one-way connection in that kind of thing, because you could say something that really gets to someone, and like you're saying, you know, about Ashney, it's like if someone, you know, sees a lot of you, or like you say a lot of things that like really, you know, get deep for you, and you can kind of feel like you've developed a relationship with them even though like they don't know you exist.
Right.
But I don't think those relationships are like I think those relationships can still, you know, provide like some value, like obviously like information exchange and stuff, and that kind of thing. And I also, you know, I think that can be valuable because it's sort of like an even more low effort version of socializing than like even having like online relationships. Because sometimes I when I'm not feeling great, my favorite thing to do is literally get food that I love and watch like you know, like Achievement Hunter, who I really like, or someone like play through a game, because it kind of just feels like, you know, watching friends play a game, but I don't even have to participate like at all, but I can still feel like I'm a little connected, and I think that's awesome. I think with streaming though, the place you can get into trouble, of course, and obviously YouTube and stuff, is when people think it's not one way or think it shouldn't be one way, you know? You can totally still have some relationships, but they can't all be well connected. But people have varying levels of friendship. Yeah, exactly. It's like you can have like, you know, a couple very close relationships and then a couple more like, you know, less close relationships, and then you know, you can have, you know, close friends and then a few more friends, I would say, and then a few, like, even more. You can have tons and tons of like acquaintances and stuff, but it's like to really deeply connect with someone, you need like hours and hours of time with them, I think, and you just physically can't do that with that many people. Sorry, but back to what I was saying before. I do think that, you know, that can become an issue. And again, like, I mean, I guess an easy example is, again, with like women streamers, like, you know, Pokimane. It's like there's a lot of kind of weird entitlement and sexualization that comes from some people, some men probably in her audience, because they don't want it to be one way, even though it's strongly one way, and they feel such a connection to her that they feel like it should go both ways, but it doesn't. You know,
Yeah, and you know,
yeah, sorry, good.
yeah, and it's very interesting because sometimes, like, when I'm like, there's this one ASMR streamer, because I love ASMR, that I go into, and they're constantly asking her, like, "Oh, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a boyfriend?" And it's like,
Yeah,
why are you asking? Like, if
yeah,
it's fine if she like says it, but like what's the meaning behind that? Like,
yeah,
if she can become less like interesting if she has a boyfriend, like, you know,
yeah, yeah,
it definitely gets interesting, and I'm like,
yeah. Well, I think it's hard to, again, I'm gonna go back to the women streamer examples, because you do get that kind of thing of like, it's people will feel more connected to you and probably want to like watch you more when it's like they feel like they, I guess, have a, you know, if they really like you and they feel like, I guess, they have some kind of chance with you, they feel even more connected to you. But that is a very slippery slope, because then you get that thing of like, you know, when Pokimane, I think, at some point announced she had a boyfriend and people were like losing their mind about it, when it's like, that's such a, I don't know, weird, like, entitled thing, because, you know, it's like ideally
Mhm.
you have that kind of relationship, and you know, in your one-way relationship, want good things for that person, you want them to be happy, like, you, I don't know,
Mhm.
it's just I don't like looking into that stuff. You have a boyfriend? Nope, but you can be it now. Congrats. Absolutely fair. Like, I don't really know. I think, you know, what happens with people like that who feel that kind of entitlement is, again, they probably just don't have a lot of good things going on in their life, and they haven't been able to have that kind of connection. And so it's hard for them when they feel that kind of connection to like separate themselves from it, and to see other people as other people when they don't have the empathy for that kind of thing. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely.
All right. We can move along. I think it's because they also lack awareness. Yeah, I think it's just,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, lack of awareness, a lack of empathy, and not getting the connection they need from their regular life, so they seek it out in places where it can become very unhealthy. You see that with celebrities too. They're so in the public eye that people feel like they know them because they can learn so much and see them so much, but they're not. Yeah, exactly. And I think, again, I feel like I've said this several times, but it's like that those relationships can still have real value for the person who is doing the one-way thing, but you can't accept any kind of reciprocation. Like, it's not, that's when you really get into trouble. And I think streaming or videos or blogs or whatever can help amplify that. You feel like you know people in the same way, only it's easier to see so many more people. Yeah, I feel like streaming can be even worse for that, because it's like you can directly communicate with them. Although, like,
Yeah.
for them, it's not. It's like another message in a sea of messages. But for you, it can feel, you know, like you've been chosen if they read your message or whatever. So I think that's really too bad. I don't know. I also, this is a tiny bit of a tangent, but I feel like, just as a general thing, we have this real hierarchy of relationships, and which relationships are better or worse. Like, again, I sort of said before that, like, I feel sometimes like people believe that online relationships don't have the same value as real life relationships, and I feel like people feel like romantic relationships are more important and more valuable than like platonic relationships and stuff, and I think that's kind of awful. Um
Yeah.
because it's just like you get a lot of different values from different things, and I don't think you know, people are more or less worthy than one another. I don't think relationships are more or less worthy than one another. So I just, anyways, we can for real move on now. So my next question was, oh my god, we're getting to the end. I mean, I have like 2 more, but they'll probably take us a bit because this one took us a bit. What has your experience been with the streaming communities you've come into contact with? So that can be like some you're in, or just like some you've seen stuff about, whatever you.
Like in the stream communities that like I've been in, I'm not really an active person. Like I'm not an active player.
That's fair.
I'm very much like I'm a lurker. I go in and maybe I'll say like if I think something's really funny, like maybe I'll just be like LOL or something. Like that's it. But yeah, I'm very much a lurker, but I do like watching people sort of talk to each other and whatnot. But I only like to do that for so long because usually I'm really there just to watch the person. Like for instance, like ASMR, that's a very visual thing. So I'm going there mainly for that, not really for the community. But I will say that like the one community that I've actually really found was, Ashley Christ and her Discord. Because I don't think I've never seen her live stream. I don't know if she still does. Yeah. But I love her Discord. I think it's so fun. And I would like to say I'm pretty active in there. And I've like you, like I've met people through there, and so and I'm forming relationships that way. And the thing that I love about it is that like we're all going there for her content because it's all about like streaming and how you can become a better streamer, and it's like it's focused on small streamers.
Yeah.
And so we're all there for the same purpose. And even though like she's like obviously the person who created all this, like we're not 100% there for like specific for her. We're there to like support one another, and like that I feel like is such an awesome community of people, because we're all going through the same struggles, we all have the same thoughts or whatnot. And it's I personally really like that one. So in that case, like I'm a little more active. And I do try to go into a lot of the different streams just to kind of be there, and to support, just because like the people that I've reached out to have also gone into my channel and have been there, and I've seen them. So yeah, so it's cool. That's really the only community I think that like I'm actually active in.
That's fair. Yeah, I think so I'm in a lot of Discords, and I've been in and out a lot of Discords, and it's super hard to be active in more than like 2, to be perfectly honest. Like I think I'm regularly active in 1 Discord right now. But I feel like my like experiences have generally been good. I think like I moderate this Discord server and a Reddit thing called Girl Streamers, and I love it. It's just like full of, you'd probably enjoy it, honestly. But it's just full of like, it's really a space for particularly like women and like non-binary folks to like hang out and get to know each other and talk about streaming and stuff, just without, the pervasive male influence that a lot of other spaces can have sometimes. And that one has been fantastic. I've been in Girl Streamers Discord, one of the best I've been in. Yeah, that's where I met Geeky Girl Sarah and a lot of other people, which has been fantastic. It's really nice. People are just so supportive, and I love being a part of it, and I love being able to help people cultivate stuff. Saying something as I'm in like 30 now. Yeah. I have been in some other communities that I like. I've been in some before that have just kind of felt like that they were for streaming, but they just kind of felt a little more shallow, I think, because I feel like people weren't there so much to connect as to just kind of gain clout or find success. Like I don't fault people for trying to find success, but it's more that thing of like you just want to use other people so they become your viewers, or to get their knowledge so you can get better, and it like without like taking without giving, I think. And I've also been in some spaces well, kind of like that, where it's like people just kind of want help from other, I guess it's kind of the same thing, but I wanted to add the point onto this one of like people who just want other people's knowledge so they can gain success, or they just want to vent about their problems, which again is okay. It's just one of those things where it's like, I feel like it's about equal give and take. I'm also a very, very empathetic person, and I have a hard time like with people who only need support all of the time. Like there are some cases, like there was someone I reached out to lately because they just seemed to need help, and I was like, I have it to give, and I am totally okay with like just being a support for you for a little while. But I think, you know, it can happen sometimes where people just want to put their stuff on other people, and it just kind of becomes an energy suck, and I have a hard time with that. Yeah, a lot of Discords seem to have people that are like, come watch my channel, and I want actual communities. Yeah, I agree. When it's a lot about like self-promotion and stuff like that, I am not about it. On the venting point, so several years ago when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I volunteered for a crisis hotline.
Oh, wow.
Which was a thing. And yeah, venting is okay when done appropriately. Many people don't know how to do that. And it was basically like we had some training, but obviously we were not like mental health professionals, so it was mostly just like about active listening. It wasn't so much about like giving advice because we weren't really qualified to do that. But I found it to be so draining because it was just people talking, like it was the point of the service, but was to just listen to people talk about their issues and be like sitting there for me and not being able to help. And just like I believe that, you know, just listening is helpful, but the fact that I couldn't do anything to help, and that it was kind of just like absorbing all of people's bad feelings, is it was way too much for me, and I stopped doing it because I just couldn't do it. And I feel sometimes the same way about, you know, people who can be kind of energy suckers like that. It's so easy to just dump emotional labor on strangers, says Brittany. Also, hi Brittany, so nice to see you. Yeah, like it's kind of one of those things, and I, as someone who it took me a long time to stop letting people just dump their emotional stuff on me all of the time, it has become a thing where I really am not about people doing that. Like I've worked to try to like ask people more if I can like talk about things with them, or, you know, if like what they need, rather than assuming that it's okay. And so there's just some places where it's just like, it's not my kind of vibe because of that kind of thing. Yeah, you have to be in a really good mental state to be able to take on other people's mental states. You have to know how to create appropriate emotional boundaries. Yes, that is really hard for me, for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, and I think what also becomes scary though is that, and you have to watch out for this, is that you don't ever want to become numb either.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what happens a lot of the time when like, because I remember when I was living up in Boston, I had a really like, she was like my best friend, but there was a lot of things happening in her life, and a lot of it she caused, but like there was just a lot of things that were happening, and she would constantly, like, that was just part of her nature. She would just, you know, she would always just put a lot on me, and so it literally came to the point where it was like I felt like it was a little almost like a toxic friendship, and so I had to remove myself, because what ended up happening was I just became numb to it, and to the point where like it was almost like I just didn't care anymore, and that's when I realized, oh my goodness, like this is a bad relationship for both of us.
Yeah.
Because here, even though like I'm listening to you, if I'm not actively listening, like that's going to do a lot of harm as well. And so I just had to like take that I like recognized that at one point. I forget what I was doing, but like it like hit me like a train, and I was like, okay, this isn't good for either. So we're just, and that's like when I decided to end it. And I think you have to be super aware, because and I think that comes with experience too, and just like being with people, because you're right. I think as a society, we're not good at like discussing our emotions and our feelings and what's happening,
Yeah.
especially like with men, because
Oh
like
yeah.
they are always told like to keep it bottled up and, don't cry, to be a manly man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of why, mental health is like on the rise, like mental health issues, because we don't know how to talk to one another. Um
Mm-hmm.
and we do have to work on that, and I don't really know I've never really seen that with streaming yet. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure it will come about. Um, but but right, you don't ever wanna, if it is becoming too much, you have to, like, recognize that and take a step back, because you're not gonna help anyone if you yourself are suffering from something like that.
Absolutely. And I
So,
think actually you've made a point of you weren't sure about streaming, but I do think one thing that can happen with streaming, especially if you do like mental health type stuff, but I think it can happen anyway, is, occasionally I can't, I was thinking about this lately. I can't remember if this has actually happened to me or if I just read about it so much that my memory's not great, whatever. But one thing that can happen is sometimes you can have, someone come in and say, hey, I'm like depressed, or I'm suicidal or whatever, and it can be so hard to see that and not be like I have to help that person right now. And I think it
right.
takes, a lot in you to recognize when you do not have the tools to help someone. I think it's really hard, especially for empathetic people, to not feel like you have to help people when they are, you know, asking for help. But you have, like, at a certain point for your own self, you need to be like, I'm really sorry to hear that. Like, I hear maybe some resources that can help you, but you have to understand that, like, I'm, not a mental health professional, or even just like I don't have it to give, and I think we also need to work on that. Saying no is such a hard skill.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
it's really interesting because I think just in general in our society, we could work on consent a lot more. But I think even like, I just wish it was an even more normal thing about just even stuff like regular physical touch. That's a whole different topic, but also about emotional stuff, because it is so much nicer, I think, to be like, hey, like, I'm not having a good day, can I talk to you about it? Because it gives you space to be like, I'm actually not having a good day either, and I'm sorry to hear it, but like I just don't have it to give right now. And I wish we made that more normal, because I think, again, like we were talking about before, is if you reach out for help and someone says I can't right now, you can take that very personally, because we take things very
Mhm.
personally and be like, oh well, I should never have asked for help and they must not like me and stuff. And it's like, no, nobody like is obligated to give you their emotional labor, even if they're your best friend or your partner and stuff. Like, you can't expect that from them all the time, and it's okay to want that in a relationship, but you have to understand that you can't expect it 100% of the time, because people are just people and don't always have it to give.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting? I mean, it's kind of sticking to like mental health, right? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're, and this just like popped in my head, like if you're in a relationship with someone, and maybe even it is with like a friend or a family member or whatever the relationship is, like, um, if you know that they have like a mental health issue, I can
Mm-hmm.
imagine that that is also really difficult
Yeah.
to manage. And right, and like if you're thinking, okay, this person is depressed, or this person, has a history of this, and they're coming to you, it's, I can see how difficult that can be.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if they don't have the awareness of like, okay, like this is also like another human being with emotions, and they have their own struggles
Yeah.
possibly that they're
Yeah.
dealing with. Yeah, that's very fascinating, and
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that can be challenging for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I think, and like, you sort of what you're saying too is it can, like, it's such a difficult situation if someone who has depression or something, so it's already super duper hard for them to just even function, much less like reach out
Mhm.
for help. But if someone reaches out for help and you don't have it to give, it like it's so hard, because it's like, well, I either overexert myself for someone else, or I let them
Right.
feel the rejection, and maybe they won't ask for help
Yeah.
again. But it's like that's not necessarily like that's not your responsibility at the end of the day. But it, as someone like me who's very empathetic, it's really hard to have that kind of thing happen. I had friends before who I would basically let them suck everything away from me because they had depression, and I was like, how can I say no? Anyway, I need to pee again. So if we can take a quick break, that would be lovely.
Absolutely.
All right, we will be
Actually,
right
I
back.
do too.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay, we're back. And I saw that Brittany followed me, which is so nice. I'm pretty sure I'm one away from 200 followers, which is wild. Sometimes, sorry, this is an aside really quick, but sometimes I just think about, the amount of people that follow me just like being in one room, like with me on the stage. And I'm like, that's a lot of people who just want to hear the things I have to say. I don't know.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Cool. Anyways, where were we? We were talking about stream communities. Ooh, okay. So this is actually my last scripted question, and then we're on our own after that. But what makes a good community, in your opinion?
Ooh, that is interesting. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to say because since I'm so new, I don't really have much experience as to what communities are supposed to be like. But I can imagine that you're going to, at least for me, I think, and this kind of goes with, I guess I can speak to my friend group and outside of stream and I guess the community that I've sort of formed together around me, outside is, but I personally like to have all different types of people, at least in my friend group and stuff, um, because in all different ages too. And I think that's kind of the same thing with streaming. Like when I'm on there, I love people from different backgrounds that from myself, people who aren't like me. I love it, especially if they are from a different country or something, because then you have so much to talk about. And for me, it's almost like wanderlust, right? Like they're saying all these cool things. I'm like, what is it like to live in a different place other than the United States, right? And even in the US, I'm from Rhode Island, but if I went to California, they're completely different over there, or Texas or something. And it's so fascinating. So I think for my personal like community, what I want is just like to people be super supportive, but also like to come with like their own experiences and backgrounds and stories, and um, to keep things interesting. But yeah, I don't really, as to like your specific question, I can't really speak to it though.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, I mean, I also like I didn't really write down anything specific for this, but I think like to me the best kind of community is just people who want to grow and learn because that's what I want to do. And obviously I
Mhm.
people who respect other people is like a pretty bare minimum
Oh
requirement
yeah.
for my server, or my community
Mhm.
rather. But I think that's ultimately what it is for me. I think like at the end of the day communities are basically they come down to the values of the person who has created it or is running it, you know, and I think that can be a really good thing or a really bad thing because I think communities can really help people grow, which is, I mean, what I'm trying to achieve is I want to help people become more confident. I want to help them reach their goals, so on and so forth. And I think, you know, there are communities that can be super supportive and really inclusive, and they can make people, you know, feel better about themselves and learn new things. And I think that's fantastic. But I also think it can go the other way, which is communities can also reinforce people's bad qualities if they're founded on, you know, like I think, you know, streamer to streamer, there are people who have different relationships with their viewers. You know, some are all about positivity and stuff like that, but some are about a lot about negativity and stuff. I had an example, but I can't think of one now. Like I just know that, you know, there are some that you go into their chat and it's all, you know, sort of borderline hateful. It's all very negative, people making
Yeah.
fun of each other, people making fun of the streamer. And I think, you know, in communities like that, it just kind of feeds into itself. Whatever you put out and allow it to happen, it becomes like a positive feedback cycle where it just makes more and more and more. So can kind of go
Yeah,
both ways.
oh, definitely. And like but I will say this is that like I think obviously it's for the streamer to control like the
Hmm.
conversation and the vibes like that people are putting out, or at least try to control it. And I will say that eh, like obviously I would never want to go into a stream that was like 100% negative.
Hmm.
But I do think that I love obviously streams that are positive, but I think too there has to be like a healthy dose um of realism,
For
right?
sure.
Like, so
Yeah.
if the streamer's having a bad day, obviously to put on like a fake smile isn't doing anyone any good.
Hmm.
Um, and I think to like address that is good. And to even like when like if you're like you're meditating or something and a negative thought comes to mind, right? Like it's like, okay, my negative thought is there. Don't spend too much time on it. Recognize it, move on. And I think that's nice and refreshing to see in a stream, someone just being human. So if something bad is happening or something bad like is happening to them or whatever, like that they're not putting on like a fake show, but like that they're unless
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's like um people can they don't or whatever, but like I guess what I'm saying is that like I personally like it when a person's human and you see all those different sides, but not to focus on like one
Yeah.
emotion for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree. Some Canadian guy said, "Great conversation to the both of you, normalizing the conversation for a lot of us, not only for the streamers, but for chat as well." Thank you. I'm so glad you're
Yay.
enjoying it. And Bunny Boys is here. Hi, Saya. I missed you. Um, Great discussion today, peeps. And Zahi said, refraining from toxic positivity, notice the negative, engage with the positive. I think kind of this along the same lines as you were saying, Ivy, is I think I like I don't like people who are always negative, but my favorite people are people who, you know, are real, like you're saying. I don't want someone who pretends that they're always having a good time because it's just not true. You know, I prefer, and I think this kind of comes back to what we keep saying is like it's about connection. I can connect with someone who's like, yeah, I have good days and bad days, and like here's, you know, I'm feeling really good today, here's stuff that's going well, or like I'm really struggling with this. And I think there's a big difference between that. Also, hi Nat, so nice to see you. This looks amazing. I've been listening like clean. It's so nice to see you. Oh my god, you have a fun badge. Fancy. Oh, GlitchCon, cool. Being negative is one thing, being real is totally different. Yeah, because I think there's a huge difference between just being like, oh, well, like today sucks, like COVID's still going on, like people are having a bad time, like I don't like, it's whatever, and being like, yeah, like there are some things going really well, like I'm happy for this kind of thing, and like this thing is going, like this is hard. Thank you for the follow, some Canadian guy. Like I think there's just a difference, you know, about being real and being negative versus positive. I wanted the GlitchCon badge and I did the instructions but didn't get one. Oh, that's so rude. That's so rude. You should send a letter or something. But I think it can, like Zahi was saying, it can kind of get into, oh, that is 200. Oh, that's 200 followers. Oh, that's exciting. Thank you. 200 followers. But I think it can get it, like it you can go too much both ways, which is, if you pretend everything is fine all the time, I think that just kind of feeds into the already problematic, one of the problematic things with the internet is we tend to put out our best selves, which is understandable because we kind of just do that in social situations, period, because we want people to like us. But it can make you feel so isolated, and it can make other people feel so isolated because it's like, you know, on Instagram, if like people post their nicest pictures of themselves and edited and like them going on cool trips and like so on and so forth, and it can be so easy to compare yourself and to be like, they clearly have it all together, but the truth is no one has it together. Absolutely no one has their shit together. No one.
And it's yes, and it's funny you bring up Instagram because like I think like that has only been like my go-to for like years. Like Instagram was like my thing, and I love Instagram, and I actually have 3 different accounts. It is funny, like I have like an old one that I used to do, then I had that, now I have like my actual one, then I have one for like Green Ivy, and it's but it's you're right, like I think there have been so many times when you go on there that you're just like, oh my god, like this person, this influencer, you know, is going to this fashion show or is doing this, or this girl who lives in Connecticut like has like the most amazing house and the most picture perfect family, and you're just like and it is hard to compare. And I mean, even on TikTok, actually, because I just got TikTok. I'm like scrolling through, and apparently there's this trend of like, apparently some girl had said like, oh, like for you oldies on TikTok that was like born in like the late 90s, and it's like, oh,
I'm old.
I didn't realize I was old.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I'm still in my 20s, but and it was funny because then it kind of hit me. I was like, wow, I never felt old before. And like, but right, and like you get sucked into that. But no one, at the end of the day, everyone's human, and quite frankly, I'm very happy at where I'm at in life right now. Like I'm happy with my age. I'm happy with everything. Obviously minus COVID, but COVID has brought fun experiences, you know? So
it's made us learn to adapt. I think, you know, even in bad times, it teaches us things. Sarah said, I have it to get, okay, just kidding, I don't. Comparison is the thief of joy. Nat said, to the topic, I think being real and admitting to everyone that mental health breaks or days when you take it easy, even on stream, is a good way to place light on the issues others may be afraid to talk about or admit. Definitely. He got legs? Yeah, he got legs. Okay. That face and that noise, I can relate. Apparently I'm ancient then. Do you two think that maybe stems from this need to be liked or belong? Like you can post, be somewhere that you can show where you want to be. Makes me, yeah, I definitely think so. Canadian guy, because I think like kind of, you know, what I was thinking when you were talking about, you know, the girl with the really nice house and stuff. It's like, but the thing about that is I feel like that just makes you feel more alienated, because it's like if there's someone who I'm like, oh my god, that person has it totally figured out, they're so successful, like that just makes me more intimidated. Like I'm less likely to want to connect with that person than if they're like, yeah, I have all this stuff going for me, but I'm also, you know, like today I'm feeling really anxious and stuff. Then I'm like, oh, okay, that person's more like me, like you relate to them. I actually, a little bit ago, I did a video, I think, about pre-stream anxiety or something. I don't know. But I was talking about like the benefits of making mistakes. And one of the ones I talked about was the fact that making mistakes actually helps you relate better to other people. We relate more to people when they share our struggles than like I think, sorry, going back to what Canadian guy was saying about the need to be liked or belonged, I think one really interesting example of how that can go wrong is one thing I think people, and I think this can particularly happen with men because they're, taught even less how to connect well with other people, is that you can get stuff like the whole like mansplaining thing, or just people like bragging and stuff, which is like the reason people do that is not because they're trying to be a dick, it's because they want you to like them and they want to be validated. And so they're like, look at all of my achievements, like look at all of the knowledge I have and stuff. But that's not how you connect with people. You connect with people by listening and by being open, and like by validating struggles and stuff. Like I don't like people more if they're like, oh yeah, I have like 6 cars and like 3 houses. I'm like, cool. Like I like you less, actually. I think there's definitely some of that too. As more things move online, we collectively kind of get more lonely. I feel that especially for medium to smaller streamers, having that realism is what attracts a lot of people to kind of come along for a ride and see how they go. Yeah, and I feel like, again, you don't get that as much with the bigger streamers, again, because it's harder to connect with them. I try my best to celebrate other people's successful moments instead of comparing can break you apart. Definitely. Totally agree from a marketing perspective. It just sells. Yeah, people like feeling connected. Like, honestly, I go back to this so many times. It seems like, every time I try to talk about something new, it comes back to like the same couple things. And one of them is connection. We desperately want to connect with other people. And it's like a survival instinct. It literally goes back to, we're social animals. And in the wild, being a social animal, if you are not accepted, if you are not connecting and you're not part of the group, you literally get left behind and you die. So that's why it becomes such a huge thing for us. Oh, that was a big rant. I need to drink water.
But yeah, and I agree. And like, also, I think if we want to go down that route, I think what's also really fascinating is like social hierarchy. And I know we kind of talked about this like previously or a little bit kind of before, but like, I think, because I think in any sort of community, there is some sort of like hierarchy, even like among like your friends and whatnot. And I think we want to feel connected, but then I think there's also that sense of like, okay, I also want like maybe not power, but like,
no, I think you're right. Yeah. I think that's the
yeah,
right
like
word, honestly.
yeah, yeah, and like I guess but it all goes back to, right, people just want to be liked, and like the more people that like you, maybe that does fill some sort of like void or whatever. But yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was thinking about this lately too, about power and stuff. And this kind of relates back to like the last note I had that I kind of wanted to talk about. Is one thing that I find interesting is when like I've seen multiple like bigger streamers talk about why they started streaming, and a lot of them say that they wanted to be like part of a community, or they wanted to make a community. And I just think it's a lot of people get that in their head of wanting to not only be part of a community, they want to be the center of the community. And I think that's understandable because like it is an ego boost, and that's kind of the ultimate, I think, show of that you are liked and you are accepted is, you know, an entire community founded around you and your ideas. Like you know, we both are on the Ashley Christ one, and it's like, you know, for her, that all of those people on there joined because they like her or they like what she's doing, and like that's very validating, so it's understandable. But again, I think it comes back to the thing where it's like, you can be a part of community and feel that kind of connection without it having to be all about you. Sorry, I've got a random WADS fact. What's a random WADS fact that I have? I haven't updated my facts in a while, and I just keep putting them off. Let's see. My favorite food is chocolate and caramel. I think I might have talked about that one before. And let's see. I don't know. I don't have other facts right now. I'm sorry. For new people, here's a fun fact. Is once upon a time I got bit right here by a snake. And it didn't let go for a while, and that was fun. Yeah. Anyway, back in the day, that's the story for another time. Power is definitely the right word. The world today, everyone wants power for their group or label. Even in the mental health field, I see it. It becomes a competition. Yeah, chocolate and caramel. You say, oh, can Green Ivy do one? Yeah. Do you have a fun fact about yourself?
Ooh, let's see. I feel like I have a lot of fun facts. Let's see. I guess a fun fact about me is I take Taekwondo.
Ooh, that's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's fun. It's one of my favorite hobbies.
That's awesome. I just thought of this one, so I'm gonna share because I don't know why I have the fun fact because I feel like it's fun, but I'm so bad at coming up with facts about myself. But I really like small cutlery. If there's a choice between like a tiny fork or a tiny spoon and a big one, I will always choose the little one, and it annoys my sister, I think, because she like wants the big spoon because it's more efficient, you get more food. But anyway, as we have evolved technologically, community is something we have lost, and I think a lot of people are seeking. Absolutely. I think I just had a thought and then it ran away, so forget it. How do you feel social interaction will change coming out of COVID? Do you think social interaction will be more connected because people missed IRL connections, or less so because they're used to interacting over devices? That's a good question.
Less, personally. And the only reason why I say that is because wait, can you still hear me? I feel like I got disconnected.
I can still hear you.
Oh, okay, you can still hear me. Okay. It went like okay. Because for me, like as I mentioned, like I'm an extrovert. I'm a social butterfly. Like that's how I am in person. But like I think but here's the thing. Like, the issue with coming out of COVID is that like we've been scared for so long. I think because with like this disease running rampant and like we like right now we're about to go on into lockdown again, and it's like you're so scared to even connect with people or to go see like one of your good friends because oh my god, they've been going out to restaurants, like there's like this weird element, and I think it's going to take a lot of us a long time to get back into like normal society again, especially now that we are leaning so heavily on our devices. And it's not something, I mean, obviously, as we've gone through the years, we've always known that we've slowly been relying on our technology way more for communication and connection than we previously had. But I feel like with COVID, it kind of like forced us all to be like, no, this is 100% how we're connecting, or like 90% of how we're connecting. And on top of that, like this idea or this thought of you being scared to connect with people in person, I think that's gonna, especially for like younger people, like kids and stuff, like I think that's gonna have a huge toll on our society because they're not going to know really otherwise. Especially we don't know how long this is gonna last. If this lasts for like another year, like it's gonna I feel like people are gonna be very, very nervous to start communicating in person.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like COVID has changed things in a way where they can't go back to normal. And I think even like kind of like you're saying, when we come out of it, it will take a very long time to even get anywhere close to where we were. Like even if tomorrow everyone, like COVID was just gone, I think it's become a thing where a lot of people, not everyone obviously, but have become more cautious. And I think it'll be the new normal to, keep a lot more space between people and to just not see people as much, because we are, at the very core of it, we are creatures of habit, and the fact that we've had months and months to build up this habit of different ways of doing things is I think we'll probably end up sticking to them a little more than we were in the past, for sure. Collective trauma that a lot of people are going to have to work hard to overcome in order to be social again, and that will be uncomfortable. Yeah, I definitely think it will be hard for people, you know, with any kind of like social anxiety or anything like that, it will be hard because like I know for me, I have issues that when I didn't deal with them for long periods of time, they kind of just got worse and festered and became way harder to deal with than if I had just been like working on them bit by bit. So I think that is going to be difficult for people.
And I also think, like, it has to do with control too. Like,
Mhm.
the one thing that we can control right now during this pandemic is who we see and who don't we see.
Yeah.
And because we don't have any control over this virus, and we don't, even with like the government and the elections, like, and everything that's happening, it's like you feel like your whole life is out of control.
Yeah.
So the one thing you can focus on is just you and your connections and how you're going to live your life day to day. And that's the little control that we have. And I think going back into normal society, it's like, okay, are we ready to also let that control go a little bit so that
Mm.
way we can, like, overcome these things? And it's going to be interesting for sure. It's going to be such a weird time, and hopefully it only
Yeah.
lasts for a little bit, but like it, who knows? I think some of these and I like what they said, it's like a collective trauma. Yeah, like I think it's going to be weird because people heal as well differently, and
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
gonna be,
Yeah, but I definitely, yeah, I think like just even with like, you know, hand sanitizer being everywhere and it being normal for you to keep like 6 feet between people, I think that kind of stuff will, even if it becomes like less of a thing, I think it will still kind of persist. Canadian guy said that's a great point. I think it goes back to that point of you can be perfect online, like it's easier to text because you can edit, you can post or you can edit a post or take multiple pictures, which sucks because people lose the realism and authenticity. Yeah, I agree. I also wanted to touch on the control thing because I was literally last stream I went on a whole rant about this because I think like we like desperately want control of things. I think one of the hardest things also about like self-growth and just that kind of thing is the fact that you have to let go of a lot of control you want to have and focus on what you can actually control because we, you know, try to control our circumstances, we try to control other people, you know, we try to control our feelings, we try to control all of the wrong things, really. When, you know, what you can control is your actions. You do have some, like, you do have power over your thoughts. It's not like an immediate thing, but you do have some control there, you know, and you, you need to let go of the rest of it, really. But I think that's really hard for people to do. Do you think that our generation longs for too much control, whether social media, general interactions, careers, blah, 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 so on? We believe in, do you think we have a human issue of longing for too much control? I don't think that our generation wants control any more or less than any other generation. I think it's just the way we are as humans is I think we have this fascinating sort of disconnect where we're so aware of the big picture and so aware of how little control we have over it. You know, if you're like a little squirrel outside, like you don't have any sense of like what's going on in the world. You don't know if there's a hurricane coming towards you. Like you don't know anything about that. And so you don't worry about it because you're a squirrel and you have more important things to worry about, like what you can control, which is your own little squirrel actions.
how you lose your nuts.
Where you're gonna bury them. You know.
Yeah, it's good for the environment though.
Yeah. But like I think, you know, we are so aware of what's going on because we're so connected now, but in like the worst possible way, which is like we know, you know, I know more about US politics than I ever really wanted to know. And, you know, we know every time there's a natural disaster happening, and we know so much about the issues of the world, and we have so little power to change them. And that can be extremely overwhelming. That can, like, I regularly, as a young person, you know, who's going to have to deal with the way the world is for years and years to come, it is terrifying to think about that too hard. It's really scary to think about like how many people are suffering and how little I can do about it. You know, you can only do your little part. Need for control is human in general, absolutely. Oh boy, as the Tralfamadorians put it, so it goes. That's an amazing point. We're getting overflown with information like we know too much. Yeah, need for understanding and need for control are different things, but very connected. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I just think like it's just, and it's super hard to have all of that and to be like, I'm just going to focus on my little tiny piece. Like, I think it takes it takes practice and it takes work. Like, even I think I can remember, well, what was it? Maybe it might have been COVID, or it might have been something else happening. I think it might have been COVID, where it was like there was so much, like, you're hearing about like thousands of people dying and people are getting sick and it's all going amok. And then I was like, I have to go to bed and go to sleep. And in the morning, I have to go to class and like learn about something, you know, and like, it's just weird to be both going through like a little apocalypse and then also to just have to carry on with your normal life. It's such a weird disconnect.
Well, and also the other thing I kind of want to stare a little bit differently, because I was just kind of thinking this when you were talking, like, because going back to like the whole control thing is that, you know, because I think actually people do want more control now, personally, only because since everything is online, your reputation can literally destroy your entire career in like a matter
Mhm.
of minutes. Whether you're like a social media person or not, you know, everything can be found now. So like maybe things like back in the 70s, like, you know, if you did something, like no one would hear about it and no one would know. That's not like a thing anymore, which is like
Mhm.
good, but it also can be bad. Um, because let's say like you are 21 and you go out and you make, you know, a really bad mistake and you do something silly. People will find that, and people can still find that, you know, years later. And I think like that is scary. So you're constantly watching what you're saying and how you're putting yourself out there, because it can have like a triple effect and, or sorry, a ripple effect. Gemma, sorry, my cat's about to. They were doing so well. They were sleeping for so long. uh, okay, I think she's good. Okay, either way. Um, so I do think like we were raised now to like be more aware, and I think like this sense of control, especially now that we're living in like a me centric
Mhm.
world where everything revolves around you. I do think people want more control.
That's a fair point. I don't think what you're saying and what I was saying are necessarily like
Yeah, I think
two
they're a little
different
different.
arguments, because I don't think our like inherent need for control has gotten like has changed, but I think kind of like what you're saying, it's just been magnified like crazy because of just the way the world is set up now. And you know,
Yeah.
yeah, you're so like, you, if you want to know, you know, dirt about someone, it is so easy to find, where it's like, you know, cat, um you know, before the internet was a huge thing, it's like, I don't know what's going on with like people in Russia, like, unless it's in like the newspaper or something, or like in a book. Like, we have too much access to information at
We
this
do.
point.
We really
Um,
do.
Also, on the topic of social norms, going back to relying less on technology, I remember that that recently Bill Gates did an interview with New York Times where he made a prediction that 50% of business travel will now be eliminated, because now with COVID, in-person meetings aren't the golden standard. Yeah, I will say one also nice thing about the COVID thing is, I think it has, you know, sometimes things and people don't change unless something happens where it's like you have no choice but to change. And I do think going forward, this will have some benefits in terms of even like people being able to work from home, when it's like they totally could have before and it makes it easier on them to do so, but it was just like the standard to always go to work, so they just didn't have that option. um Killian said information allows for more power over oneself and other stuff. It's why those who really seek control over others try to limit the access people have to information. That's a really good point, actually. I'm a librarian and we deal with
Yeah,
the politics of access to information constantly. Ooh, that's fascinating. That's really cool. To your point, Wads, I remember working with a client who had OCD, and she said something that sticks out so much. I have to understand that I don't have control over how the day will go or how I will feel, but what I know is that I will get through it. Absolutely, for sure. And a nice quote from her was, remind yourself that it's okay to live in the unknown and that stress and worry do not need to be a desperation for control. At the same time, though, how do we know what information is real or not. There's over access. We don't know what's true or not. Absolutely. And information literacy is super important. So there's two things I wanted to say something to there. I think so in terms of the like going back to the control thing again, I think so the need to control, I think, generally comes from a place of fear, because it's like if you can control something, you control the outcome, and so you know what's going to happen. There's no need to be afraid of it. But it's like when we don't know what's going to happen, that's really scary. And I think the sort of the antidote, I guess, to that is working on, you know, your faith, which is what I've been doing. And I don't, and for anyone who has not been here when I've talked about faith and stuff, I don't mean like religion. I'm not big on religion, but what I mean by faith is having like believing in things that like haven't happened yet, and believing that things will be okay. You know, that's having faith. To be like, things are going to happen, good things are going to happen, bad things are going to happen, and I am going to be okay. I am going to get through them. And I think working on believing that makes it so much easier to like let go of some of that need for control that we have. I've been working on that lately, personally. There's also one other thing. Oh god, my scrolling is not working well. What was it? I don't know what it was. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Oh no, I remember what it was. This is just like a little PSA, you know, in general. But everything I say, everything anybody says, like literally even like, you know, doctors or, you know, people who are like probably the highest authority for something, it's best to always take everything people say with a grain of salt, because it like just everything, because even if it's generally true, it might not be true for you. And just because something works for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So it's just always good to have a healthy dose of doubt. And if something doesn't feel right, it's probably because it's not right for you in some way. So yes, I was fun. Canadian guy said, I agree, but with the pace of the world today, a lot of people don't have time, want the time to analyze it. If I work on so many things that I want to look at, I don't have time to analyze it. Not having us not wanting our different issues, for sure. Yeah, I think it's hard because there's a lot of things I think like that. Like I feel that way about food sometimes. Like I try my best to make like good ethical choices without driving myself absolutely insane, because I only have so much to give. And it becomes really hard because it's like you can spend your whole life trying to figure out what is the best thing to do and what is right and stuff, and at a certain point you have to just stop. Like I'm not trying to say at all that, you know, information literacy and being able to like do your own research and figure out your own sources, like that's really important, but at a certain point you just have to let go of it.
And that's actually really funny that you mentioned that, because when I was in college, you know, I watched a ton of just animal documentaries and how our meat industry is and how it's destroying our planet and all this other stuff, that I literally went I for like 3 months I only ate raw vegetables because I was absolutely
Yeah,
scared. And
yeah,
I think, and then from there, you know, I became a vegetarian, and then I became a pescatarian, and now,
yeah,
you know, I'm back to eating meat again. And when Tom and I were living together, you know, I was very particular on where we
yeah,
we got
yeah,
our produce and our meat from. But at some point, right, like, so we moved into Tom's parents' house, and we don't cook, so they cook for us. So as a guest, I'm kind of putting aside like my a little bit kind of my like beliefs, in the sense that like I'm not going to tell her where to shop and
yeah,
where not to
yeah,
shop, right? Because that you're just going mad at that point. And you know, we're not going to be here forever, and as soon as, you know, we buy a house and, you know, we're cooking again, we're going to go back to that old way. But you're right, there does come a point where like, okay, what's healthy, what's unhealthy, and yeah. I don't know. And
Yeah.
it's also kind of good too, like to not um force anyone into doing something. So luckily for Tom, he's on board. He's like, whatever you want to do is fine. He won't watch any documentaries with me.
Hmm.
um, but I it's we find that healthy balance, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think like it's that hard balance, right? Of like I feel like that way about a lot of things. It's like lately, I have to get oil changes on my car because my car is old and has issues. And so it has to get regular oil changes. But it's like there are so many things where it's like I would love to know how that works because I
Mhm.
don't like even sometimes with like computers and stuff, I'm like, I have no idea how things work. And so sometimes when things don't work, like I'm just like, I wish I knew more about computers. But we only have so much time in a day and you have to prioritize what is really important to you. I read an article a little while ago. I think it was about shrimp specifically, but it made a point about how any like barring things you grew and picked yourself or like maybe got from a local place, it is likely that somewhere along the chain of any food you get there was some like someone was mistreated or something is unfair, like, and it's just like with everything, like there's just
Gemma,
no
Gemma,
winning. It's
sorry, I'm so sorry. She keeps
okay, it's
reminding
okay.
me.
It's okay.
Are you gonna behave?
Yeah, I think for me it kind of goes back to that like just drawing your own conclusions. Like you don't believe everything everyone says. And sometimes, you don't like I honestly like I'm just a feeler person, so I often just go on feel. If things don't feel right to me, I just don't go with it. And if they do, I tend to go with it. I just forgot what I was saying, but it's okay. It's okay. I forgot what I was saying.
Gemma's stealing the show.
We also don't have all to individually do all the work. Yeah, I listen here. I absolutely agree with what you're saying, Killian, and I think in the ideal world, we all work to make the best choices we can. Yeah, we're all analyzing what to believe and what not to constantly. I just think, like, I do think looking into things from time to time and making an effort to do it is really good. It's really good to look at your beliefs and dig into them and, question them. I think that's always great. Admit what you don't know, move on. But you have to be aware that like I mean the other problem I think is we could have access to all of the information in the world, and even if we had it all in our head, I don't think we would come up with the right answers anyway. Because the problem, even with like research papers and stuff like that, is those can also be biased in a lot of different ways. So even if you read a paper and you're like, well, this paper says this, that doesn't mean it's like objectively true. So that's why you just have to do the best you can. That's literally all there is. You just do the best you can with what you have, and I personally, just try to be a little better than yesterday. And if you have the time and the energy, pick a belief or pick a thing you want to learn about and learn a little more about it. You know? I like what Zahi said of if you can't do the proper research and you know it, don't adopt uninformed opinions, admit you don't know and move on. I think that's also really powerful.
Yeah.
I often try to preface things, and that's also why I say like literally don't just take anything I say at face value. Like don't just believe anything I say or anybody else says. Because they're like, even if I think I know something, it might not be true for you. It might not be true objectively. Like I felt like this a lot when I was talking about biology. It's like I genuinely could be misremembering something. And even if I say it with total confidence and say I studied this, that still doesn't mean it's true. And everything is a theory. Anyway, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, just know that you don't know things. You also have to have the awareness to not fall prey to the thought leaders that have an agenda. I think you nailed it. Some people can't admit they don't know something. Yeah, I think that's all we can do is our best. There's like a stigma around not knowing something. Well, I think that also kind of goes back to the wanting to be liked and stuff. And I
Yeah.
personally struggle with wanting to be right all the time. I'm working on
Well,
it.
because
So.
and like here's the thing, and I've learned this, just by working in corporate America. It's if you're saying something and then like maybe in the back of your head you're like, oh, actually, I don't really know if this is true. Like, uh, I guess what I'm saying is like it's more powerful to be like, actually, you know what, guys, like let me go research this and get back to you, compared to like you saying this with all the confidence and then like follow up and being like, actually, if you keep doing that, I don't know. I think it is very powerful to say like, let me just double check for you or something. Yeah. Mm. Okay, sorry, my my finger's bleeding.
It's
I keep sucking on my
oh,
my
do you need to
finger.
like go get a band-aid or something? Are you okay?
She always claws me. She's a bad kitty, but
Yeah.
oh, where are you going? Okay.
Yeah, for
Hold
sure.
on,
I
what
never ask that people take anything at face value as perfect truth. I do think that it's important to consider what's being said and where it comes from and to do your own work on how to. I agree. I just, you know, there's a lot more things in life that I wish I knew more about, but I have other priorities that don't like line up with that. So it's hard, but you do just you take what people say, you take what you learn and you say, "Okay, how do I feel about, how do I feel about that? How does that line up with my beliefs? Could I be missing something here?" Like, just be open. Just be open to being wrong. I think that's definitely another huge thing we have to work on just as a society, is just being okay with being wrong. We don't like admitting we're wrong or that we might not know something. It's wild. Um there's one about how people say, "Oh, how could you not know that? Statistically, it doesn't make any sense, and at least 10,000 people each day don't know those things." For sure. I think one thing that kind of goes on with that particular thing is I remember in like high school, somebody, my best friend, being like telling me she doesn't know how to sew, and I was like, "How do you not know how to sew?" But I think it's because we before we kind of learn more, like especially when we're younger, we just assume that everyone's experience is the same as ours. We assume that people experience the world in the same way that we do, and that is completely wrong. Um, I think, going to Ivy's point, people will continue to keep arguing even though they know they're wrong. I'm guilty of it. I will do worse than that, in that even in my brain, I won't be like I'm wrong. I'll be like, no, 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 I'm right, and I have more proof. If that proof doesn't work, I have more proof. But I'm working on it. I'm working on letting things go. My whole family is lawyers, okay? So you have to forgive me for that. We can possibly know so much. That's definitely a thing, and admitting when we do it and working on it is important, because we all do it sometimes. Absolutely. I think it's one of the most powerful things you can say is to be like, "I actually just don't know," or like, "I don't think I know enough about that to really have an opinion on it," or just to be like, "You know what? I was wrong about that, and I have learned something." And I think that's really fun.
I love that what you just said, like to not have like an opinion, because I think a lot of times, of course, like we're swayed by like our family and our
Mm-hmm.
friends. And for a long time, like growing up, like I was like, oh yeah, like my family is like this, like has this political view. I'm just going to adopt it because I don't really know much about it.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, actually after researching it, like, and I actually formulated an opinion because I did research. I realized we actually have completely different views. And I think that's important because I think sometimes we are just like, oh, yeah, like we're just going to go with the flow. Because the people around us are doing that, especially the people that like you respect and admire, like for instance, like my parents, right? Always looked up to them, love them, and definitely respect them. I'm like, oh yeah, so obviously we're going to have the same viewpoint, so I'm just going to adopt it.
Right.
But then, and I think we fall victim to that a lot of times. Whether that's like maybe our favorite streamer or like,
Mm-hmm.
someone, out in the real world, that real, I keep calling it the real world. I guess this is
The
all the real
real
world.
world.
The real
Out there. Yeah.
um, and yeah, and I think that's important. Like you definitely, and I forget who said it. Someone said it in chat. Like definitely do your research before like you form an opinion on something.
Yeah.
Because I feel
Yeah.
like we don't do that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, and there are some things obviously that are kind of more important to form your own opinion on, like stuff like politics, like you should really research into that kind of stuff. I just think there are some things that are maybe not like worth your time, like learning how your car works, just like so you know if you're like paying the right amount for things or whatever, or you know whether or not something needed. That can be really useful, but like I don't really want to commit time to that personally. I have other things I would rather be doing, you know? And some people might be like, I really want to know for that, but you just have to kind of pick and choose.
Like, yeah, and like at the same time too, I don't think you're gonna go out there and be like, oh, you have to use this oil because of this, this, and that. You know?
Yeah, like I think the more knowledge we have, you know, the better equipped we are, but also it just makes things a lot harder.
That's fair.
Reframing how you can define winning for some situations can help. Yeah, we all want to be on the winning side. Would you say it's this need to be on the winning side, Ivy, hence people go with the flow? I feel on the flip side, some people want to be rebellious.
Oh yeah, it's both ways. You have both extremes. What is it? You have what are they called? The hipsters, right? Like they want to be super rebellious, but now like it's kind of almost like a meme at this point. But like, yeah, you're gonna have people at both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, I think there can be a lot of factors going on with this. I do think with some things it can be really hard, even if you can get it where someone can completely disagree with like stuff on the quote unquote side they're on and still go along with that side because of social pressure. And so it becomes a lot more complicated than just forming your own opinions. We get stigmatized for that too. My dad does it so much, tell me I should learn about cars and useful things while I'm watching acting videos, but he doesn't understand that's where my interest in time goes. Yeah, it's like that I think is one of the hardest things, and that comes back, I think, we talked about this a bit earlier about the word should. We talked about this thing pretty briefly about how we should just throw out the word should because it's so easy to be like, oh, I should learn about this, I should know about this, like, you know, I should work harder to do all of this stuff. And at the end of the day, you really do have to just kind of be selfish and you have to focus on what's important to you. Because it's like, I could dedicate my entire life to, you know, trying to be the best person I could be and trying to make the best choices I could and so on, but I wouldn't be happy. And at the very end of the day, my happiness comes first. So I have to focus on what feels right for me and what is good for me. And I think, again, that's all that you can really do. I don't think, like, trying to lead a life where you just do all your shoulds instead of the I want tos is not a life I want to live.
I mean, there are some things maybe you should do, like make sure like you're healthy and like you're going to your doctor if you're sick or something. Like obviously things like that. Like yeah, but when it comes to like the bigger things, the things that are going to frame your life, right? You don't want to live someone else's dream. You want to live your own dream.
I have a counterpoint to that, actually.
Oh,
because I've lately been trying to replace every time I have a should or like say like an adult obligation that I don't really want to do, I reframe it as something I want to do. Because the thing is, if you're sick, you don't have to go to the doctor. You don't have to do anything ever. But, you know, it's like lately it was like, okay, today I'm going to call the dental surgeon company because I need to have a wisdom tooth surgery, even though I really don't want to because I care about my health, you know? And I think, well, if you don't care about your health, you have some, I think, self-love work to do. Yeah. But I think like even with the should things, which I know what you mean. It's like really you quote unquote like should be eating and sleeping and like taking care of yourself, like quote should. But you know, it's that the problem with the word should is it just becomes a guilt thing.
See what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just a nice reframing thing.
Yeah.
Assuming you're Canadian, I believe there'd be an example of things you have a slight idea what's going on, but not know a play-by-play of what's going on in the States. yeah. When I got a job, I told him I'm working for a mental health MPP, and he would say, how are you going to make money if it's a not-for-profit? Where he didn't understand me using my degree and my personal experience to make in mental health to make a difference. A lot of people, sadly, don't understand people's wants. Yeah, and that's why you kind of have to be a little bit ruthless in what relationships you want to pursue. I've really had to work on that lately. It's hard. It's really hard to let go of people that are like not good for you, but it feels so much better when you do. That just seems to be a misunderstanding of what a not-for-profit means. I don't know a ton about not-for-profits, so I'm not going to comment on that one because I don't know. So I'm not going to have an opinion. Mississauga born and raised. I think it's a rough expectation, though. Like, honestly, I don't watch the news at all. I don't pay any attention to it on social media. Honestly, I have no idea what's going on. I know Biden won. That's about it. Plenty of people here are under the impression he didn't, so you're doing better than a lot of other people. Yeah, that's a fair point. I think just about I believe Canadian guy was talking about his dad. I think sometimes that is just kind of like some people, and I think this can happen with parents a lot, is they want the best for their kid, but instead of, you know, being like, what my kid wants to pursue is what's best for my kid, they take what their idea is and try to impose it. And like, again, that comes back to the trying to control other people. Is it will just make you unhappy. It will make them unhappy. You have to meet people where you are. And even if you want your kid to be a doctor and they want to be an actor, like, I just want my kids, you know, if I have kids, to be happy. That's what my parents are like, you know, and if they're happy, then that's all I need. Oh, I think I lost you. I think I lost you, Ivy. Oh god, technical difficulties. Oh lord. There you go. There you're back.
Okay.
Living in West is gross. So much denial. Yeah.
Okay.
My dad is not a fan of not-for-profits. More just feeling that there's no way to move up. Very old school mind. Yeah. People again, and that kind of comes back to, I feel like, the being closed off and wanting to be right. You're not open to learning things or, you know, going through change, because change and being wrong is scary and uncomfortable, and people don't like things that are scary and uncomfortable. Understand. Anyway, I think they're talking a bit about politics in there, but I don't know anything about the United States politics, so whatever. Yeah, so I feel like we're kind of getting to the end. I don't have anything else I want to add at this particular moment. Oh, all right, I'll just respond to what Canadian guy said, and then I think we'll wrap it up, because this has been a very long stream, and it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful having you here, Ivy. I hope you can come on again.
Yes, I love this. This has been a great
Yeah.
conversation.
My dad told me one day I'm disappointed because I had these expectations, or you're going to be. Yeah, I saw this thing, I think, on like, I don't know, like Tumblr or something lately, or maybe not even lately, at some point in my life, and I thought it was very good, because it said something along the lines of like, to be happy, I'm gonna have to disappoint my parents. And I was like, I vibe with that. I mean, I my parents didn't put that kind of expectation on me, because I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful family. But I think, and this is something else I talk about and stuff, but you really, like, to be happy, you have to let go of wanting everyone to like you and wanting to please everyone. You just have to let people not like you and to be disappointed in you. And it's really hard to do, but it gets easier. My whole family wanted me to be an engineer. Yeah. When you get rid of your, you know, expectations for other people, it becomes a lot better. Whew.
Absolutely.
I told my dad I was going to grad school for Science, and he said, no, you're not. Spoilers, I did. It was nice meeting you in China. You too. I'm so glad you got to join. Thank you all for coming. I big agree with you. Like, I put expectations on myself. It wasn't my parents that I was going to do science when I really wanted to do art. Anyway, we're here now. But thank you everybody so much for joining. I'm gonna see who's online that we can go rate. Oh, Messenger's online. Love her. We'll go rate her. But again, thank you so much everybody for coming. Thank you for getting me to 200 followers. I appreciate so much. Thank you, Ivy, so much for coming. Do you have what social medias do you have? I know you have Twitch, but your Twitch is Green Ivy.
Yeah, Green Ivy.
You have Instagram and TikTok, I hear.
Yes, I just got TikTok. Yep. So all of that can be found on my Twitch profile. Yep, I have Instagram, YouTube,
Awesome.
TikTok. The one thing I don't have is Twitter. I'm not very. I don't feel like I'm witty enough for that. So I was like,
That's
but
okay.
I put yeah, I put all my updates on Instagram. So
Awesome.
yeah, thank you so much for
Oh,
having me.
that
I had
was
such a great
wonderful.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so we are going to go raid Messenger and show her some love. And then
Oh,
I'm gonna go pee again because I've just been waiting. Anyway,
yeah, same.
we were
I'll
so
probably go head
close, and I
out.
was like, I'll just wait, and it's fine. Anyway, have a wonderful day, everyone. I'll be back on Thursday this week. Yeah, when do you stream next, Ivy?
Sunday at 7:30
Oh,
p.m.
tomorrow. Oh,
Eastern. Yep,
wonderful. So you can
tomorrow.
go check her out tomorrow and stuff. All right.
Yeah,
I'll
coming out.
see you. Bye.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye bye. Okay. All right.
Bye.